welcome to Watch, Review, Repeat. This is the podcast where two best friends discuss the latest in film and television and then do it all over again the following episode. My name is Colton Brown. Joining me in the arena, in the Coliseum, it's Andrew Meadows.
Here for your entertainment.
We're about to find out. If we were entertained. if we were entertained by Gladiator II, aka Gladiator with a 2 in it, or maybe as the movie puts it, Gladiator with the two Roman numerals in there, huh? Roman numeral 2.
Okay.
Yeah, Gladiator. Yeah, we're here. Came out late November. I think we're a little late coming around to it.
What a big couple weeks! I mean, it came out.
We've been busy. You know, I think we got super busy in our personal lives. We haven't recorded in at least a few weeks, if not longer than that. When we did our Agatha All Along episode with Enrique Jaime on with us as well, it was fun. Took way too long to get out to the regular feed because the Thanksgiving happened, just life happened. You know, busy, and maybe a little bit of laziness thrown in there on my part too. But yeah, we had grand plans, I think grand visions of maybe, finding one more thing to talk about in November, and it just didn't happen. Never happened. And so we have decided, hey, obviously there was a string of like big movies that came out right at the tail end of November. Gladiator II, Wicked, Glicked, I guess as it's kind of known. It's kind of the Barbenheimer trend sort of thing. I don't think it quite reached the same heights, but both doing very well. We'll talk about box office stuff later for sure. But yeah, and then Moana 2 came out the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. So I've seen some of those movies, including Gladiator 2. I can officially confirm. But yeah, we there's just a lot, and we've been busy, and so we probably won't talk about all of those. Certainly not in terms of recording an episode on each. But Gladiator 2 is kind of the one that you made time for to go see it in a theater. I did the same as well, and so we're here to talk about it. So we're a little late, as we kind of have been with really most things this year, because we've been busy with stuff and life, and
it's been a big year.
You've got a small child, who's growing before your very eyes, and obviously occupies a good amount of your time. The whole work thing obviously takes up probably the majority of our lives if you actually crunch the numbers on it. But when we can find the time and find the space to see a movie in the first place, watch a TV show, and then record on it, obviously it's not an insignificant amount of time that it takes for all of that to happen. So we can't do it in the same capacity that we used to, certainly.
If anything, it just makes it more special when it can happen,
Sure, absolutely.
It also pisses you off a little bit more when your experience is not,
yeah, not ideal. We'll get into that.
Watch certainly. A poor movie or a theater experience is not maybe up to snuff, But
yeah, corn on the cob type shenanigans could ensue. I don't know if they happen here. We'll talk about it, but
c'est la vie.
But yeah. C'est la vie. So anyway, I want to say, since obviously we are late, this is mid-December that we're recording this, and probably close to Christmas by the time this is out, maybe even after Christmas if I get lazy again. I hope everyone had a nice Thanksgiving. Let's start there.
Yes.
And I hope everyone's enjoying the Christmas season, or the holiday season, obviously, if you don't celebrate Christmas as well. So the holiday season. Enjoy the holiday season. We're all decorated up in the house, mostly thanks to Anna. And we have a tree. We got a Christmas tree and stuff like that. So it's very exciting. We are fully in the Christmas spirit here up in Philadelphia. So yeah. So that's what's going on. That's what's happening. That's why we're here to talk about Gladiator 2, and that's why we're doing it at this point in time. So on the note of Gladiator 2, I'm putting you on the spot. I didn't ask you beforehand. Do you have a fun fact about it? Anything else maybe that's come up in your life in the past few weeks since we last convened?
I can't say that I have any particularly... I do have a fun fact. I actually learned that. Did we talk? We may have talked about this on the cast. I don't know. I thought it was completely in the trailer of Gladiator 2, I thought it was nuts how there's a sequence in the trailer where there's a naval battle.
Sure. Yeah. Okay.
And I thought there's just no way. There's no way they did that.
What the fuck is happening here? Naval battle in the Colosseum? This is absurd.
And apparently you informed me that they in fact did have mock naval battles in the Colosseum.
That's my understanding. I mean, Anna is the Roman history expert in the family, but I think that it is a fact that the Colosseum would be, I guess, converted, I guess you could say, to
like a giant
accommodate naval battles, which is pretty nuts. I think that her point of contention with how the movie Gladiator II depicts it is the presence of sharks. The sharks may or may not have been part of the history. But the naval battles themselves, I think, were legit. I mean, definitely happened, which is kind of insane, from like a architectural standpoint of, how are you flooding it and, getting all this shit in there and staged and everything like that. I don't really know the ins and outs of the specifics of, but it was a thing. So I think that is a fun fact is, again, there's some elements of the naval battle as portrayed in Gladiator 2 that are eye rolling and be like, well, that didn't happen. As many things are in Gladiator 2, we can say at this point did not happen. It is a fictional movie after all. But that particular, the genesis of that idea was not Ridley Scott, old man Ridley Scott.
It's rooted.
Going off the deep end.
Yeah,
there is obviously precedent for that to have happened. So yeah, that, I mean, it's pretty badass, is what I would say.
Yeah,
so it's
pretty incredible.
It's a fun fact, but it's also pretty badass too. So, all right, that is fun. I'm glad you brought that up because obviously I'm sure we'll circle back around to talking about the naval battle and the other things that happen in Gladiator 2. I actually have. I'm gonna throw three fun facts.
Oh, loaded with fun.
The first fun fact, very brief one. We did a bonus episode on the first Gladiator, I believe last year, as kind of our little mini series that we did on epic films, where we talked. I think we started with Troy, maybe went to Gladiator next. I think did Lawrence of Arabia. Might have just been those three. Can't remember if we did a fourth in that series. A loose ongoing series in the style of our Studio Ghibli coverage where we did one episode and still have like 20 movies to go. But we'll get there eventually. Episode 456, we'll finish our coverage.
That was a pretty fun.
Check out our bonus episode.
Yeah, check those out. That was a lot of fun doing those three.
Those were all fun. It was a good time. Gladiator 2, obviously. I think we maybe set the stage for a little bit at the end of that bonus episode. I didn't actually go back and like re-listen to what we talked about. But we really like the first Gladiator movie is great. It holds up. It's worth a watch. So if you do watch Gladiator, if you have watched Gladiator in preparation for its sequel, coming out, definitely check out our bonus episode because we got some thoughts on the first movie that you should listen to, and that would be the place to do it. The second fun fact, which I think maybe I alluded to in that episode, if I recall correctly, it didn't actually specifically review the record to confirm. But this is there have been attempts in the past to bring a Gladiator 2 sequel to the screen. And there's one kind of infamous version of a Gladiator 2, which I think anytime the idea of Gladiator 2 came up, and we may, again, even if it wasn't on that bonus episode, we've probably talked about this in some incarnation on this podcast, I would guess. I don't know for sure. But there was a very batshit version of Gladiator 2 as penned by musician Nick Cave, which would have been a absolutely
Nick Cave.
Nick Cave, yeah, Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, I think is the what he performs.
Nick Cage, alter ego.
Yeah, it's a distant cousin of Mr. Cage, Nick Cave. So he was hired to write a Gladiator 2. He wrote a Gladiator 2. I think the script is out there, maybe, and like you could read it, of just kind of what this thing is. It's kind of it starts with the. I'll give a general breakdown of it without getting hopefully too bogged down in the actual details of it. It would have starred Russell Crowe, bringing back the character of Maximus, which begs the question of, well, that seems problematic given the ending of the first film, in which Maximus does not survive.
Spoiler.
So the screenplay opens with Maximus in the afterlife, he meets a guide where he starts interacting with various Roman deities, and then he is, I think, basically offered a deal by the gods if he kills Hephaestus, that he will be reunited with his wife and son in the golden wheat fields of Elysium.
Interesting.
So it's already going off the deep end right off the bat. And so the movie kind of follows Maximus tracking down Hephaestus. He's human again, sent back to Rome. He's also in search of his son, it looks like. And so, even though his son's dead, but now his son's been brought back to life because reasons. And so it's him kind of tracking things down, interacting with some characters from the first one. The character of Lucius would have been would have grown up to become evil in this thing. It would have also featured a mock naval battle where 100 alligators would have been on hand in the water.
Okay.
So sharks or alligators, I don't know which one's cooler. And there would be a big showdown between the Roman enforcers led by Lucius and a Christian resistance army that Maximus and Juba, who I think is Jamin Hansu's character from the first one, would have been training in secret. And then the movie would have concluded with Maximus continuing to survive for forever, it would seem, in kind of an X-Men Origins Wolverine style thing. He would have been fighting in the Crusades and the World Wars, Vietnam, and then it would end with him in the Pentagon in modern day. Wow. When presented with this script, Russell Crowe said, "Don't like it, mate." So it didn't happen. Nick Cave later told an interviewer, "I enjoyed writing it very much because I knew on every level that it was never going to get made." Which, it's so bonkers and so detached from obviously what the first one was that, I think that's a fair stance on it, to be like, well, that's just fucking absolutely absurd. There's no way that any studio is going to greenlight this fucking script. It's just so insane and out there. Like, elements of it, like, all right, resurrecting Maximus so you can bring back Russell Crowe, I could see a studio head signing off on that, but some of the other stuff, maybe not. So
bit of a stretch.
Anyway, we were deprived of that Gladiator 2. Instead we got Gladiator.
I think so, Nick we'll talk about it.
Nick Cave, not Cage.
Yeah, Nick Cave may have been involved in this one too, I think. Possibly.
Yeah. So they retained some elements in the naval battle, for sure. They just traded in those alligators for sharks. They said sharks are cooler. Which, is a stance to take. I don't know if I personally agree with it,
right?
But it's a stance you could take.
Well, they're pretty much dinosaurs. That's pretty cool.
And my third and final fun fact, which I think is kind of on the shorter side, is I kind of wanted to address something that was a little odd, and there's been some rumors kind of floating around what happened behind the scenes. But the actress May Kalamaui, who you probably don't recognize by name, but you would recognize as Layla from the series Moon Knight. She played Layla, like kind of the woman that became the Scarlet Scarab at the end. She was originally cast in this movie, and her character was totally cut. And there was a rumor that she was going to be playing the wife of the protagonist character, but that because she had Palestinian heritage, that she was cut from the movie and replaced with an Israeli actress. That is not true.
I was going to say, wow,
that is not true.
That's pretty bold.
Jeez. Not to wade into obviously talking about, political conflicts, world conflicts, or anything like that, but obviously that would have been pretty, I think, outrageous.
That would have been on the fucking nose. That would have been, jeez.
So that did not happen. That is not the case. That there have been rumors kind of spread that was what happened. That's not what happened. The actress who plays the protagonist's wife was always in the movie. There was no recasting or anything that happened there. I think there were points where they were both on set at the same time. So that's not what happened. She was going to play a character named Fortuna, who would have been in the service of Denzel Washington's character and would have had a possible relationship of sorts with the protagonist. It seems like a relatively significant role that was kind of cut down and kind of axed entirely. I think it's possible she appears in like frames in the movie, like kind of just off to the side and like, early scenes where Denzel is featured. But obviously she's not really present in the movie in terms of having an actual character. So basically a glorified extra, I guess, is kind of what it was cut down to, which is kind of a bummer because I didn't really know her before Moon Knight, but I thought she was great in that and would like to see her in more things. And, obviously I imagine for her, it has to be pretty shitty to be in a pretty big movie and obviously, not make it to the final cut of the movie. But I suspect she was one of many cuts from this movie, if I had to guess. But that's my third and final fun fact for you on Gladiator II.
Very fun. We're off to we hit the ground running with funness.
Yeah, lots going on there, lots going on there. And so now we have to talk about things that aren't fun, because that's what we do. We start things on a high note and then we drag it back down to make everything depressing for everyone. We have an in memoriam section. We're bringing it back. It's been a month since we recorded, so of course, it happens. But only one entry on this, thankfully. Tony Todd. Actor Tony Todd, I think most famous for being, Candyman. Also notably appeared in the Final Destination horror franchise. Has died at age 69.
It's pretty young.
And pretty young overall. I think kind of an young, actor who, kind of young. I mean, I don't want to die at 69. I think that's fair to say. He's an actor who is in a lot of things, generally not lead roles in a lot of things, like Candyman obviously being sort of an exception where he's playing, the Candyman, but it's sort of I think Virginia Madsen's sort of like the main character that we follow. But either way, he was very prominent in a lot of horror movies and then lended his voice to a lot of things. Certainly recently he was Zoom in the Flash TV series, the CW show. You can't lock up the darkness. That's him.
Okay.
He did Venom in the most recent Insomniac Spider-Man game, Spider-Man 2. He did the voice of Venom.
Okay.
Voiced Darkseid in the DC animated movie universe.
He did.
Many movies. Did voice in Transformers Revenge of the Fallen. Was in the original movie The Crow, not the recent Bill Skarsgård one. Tons of things that he, I think had relatively smaller roles, like a very prolific supporting / character actor who did a lot of stuff. A lot of horror movies, a lot of B movies and stuff like that too, but definitely some very, very memorable roles in film and TV side. His credits are crazy, just the amount that he was in things. An episode of Riverdale, several episodes on The Flash, obviously, voice roles in Transformers, Prime, Batman, The Brave and the Bold, just tons of things. So a very prolific actor who I think, for the roles that stand out, like the voice of Zoom, back in the early days when The Flash wasn't a big piece of shit TV show, Candyman, iconic shit, pretty iconic shit, I'd say. So I'll say rest in peace to Tony Todd. And now let's try to go back to nicer things. We're going to check in on the DC studios. What's going on with James Gunn and Peter Safran's,
Yeah, we haven't heard anything.
But we haven't checked in on it in a while, We still don't have a trailer for Superman or anything like that, but it's coming out next year. We'll obviously get one, I think, at some point.
Yeah, you got to start the hype train.
But, there's other projects that are happening besides Superman, like the HBO series Lanterns, which is going to be a Green Lantern Corps based television series, which will be coming to HBO possibly next year, maybe early 2020, probably closer to, might be 2026, because I imagine a Green Lantern Corps type thing needs a hefty amount of post-production.
For sure.
In theory. But it's coming from Chris Mundy, who worked on Ozark, Damon Lindelof, who worked on the Watchmen HBO series and Lost prior to that, and comic writer Tom King. So good group of people working on it. But we've got some casting news. We have our Hal Jordan and we have Jon Stewart. So Hal Jordan is going to be played by an actor I'm a huge fan of, Kyle Chandler, who's Coach Taylor on Friday Night Lights. For those who need to put a face to the name. So we're getting an older Hal Jordan.
Okay.
Had we recorded semi-regular episodes as we once did, we would have reported on the fact that apparently Josh Brolin was offered this role and declined it. So maybe not the first choice for Hal Jordan. But I have to say, Josh Brolin's he's been Thanos, he doesn't need to be every, comic book character. Let's bring some new blood in. So I'm excited to see Kyle Chandler. I think that's very cool. Again, obviously an older Hal Jordan. But he's going to be paired with a younger Jon Stewart, who's going to be played by actor Aaron Pierre, I don't think I've seen him in anything, but he's apparently very good in a Netflix, I think, movie called Rebel Ridge.
Rebel Ridge.
Have you heard anything about that? Yeah, it came out earlier this year on Netflix. I have not seen it, but I think he's a lead actor in it. I think it's directed by the guy that did Green Room. I
like that movie.
It's a good movie. That's a good movie. So yeah, he's going to be playing the Green Lantern Jon Stewart. So we're definitely getting an older, younger, kind of, I was going to say buddy cop. I guess not necessarily buddy cop, but two space cops sort of dynamic. You get the old grizzled,
I tell you what, though, I think
paired with maybe the younger, maybe more optimistic character. I don't know. We'll see obviously how they play with the characterization, but certainly in terms of age, that's what we're looking at.
Chandler strikes me more of a Hal Jordan than Josh Brolin, I think.
I kind of, I think
he's got the...
I don't know. Yeah, it excites me way more than Josh Brolin would have, I have to say. I mean, Josh Brolin, fantastic actor. I think he's great. I didn't need that, so I'm kind of glad that didn't work out. Kyle Chandler, definitely new to the superhero genre. I think, kind of has a very specific cadence and, acting, personality, but I think one that to me,
I think it fits the character.
Kind of fits like an older, gruff, maybe, space cop kind of character, like, the way that I'm kind of envisioning it. So I'm really excited to see his take on it. The show itself is described as like a True Detective sort of thing, with Hal Jordan reluctantly mentoring a younger Jon Stewart as kind of a base thing. They're investigating a murder on Earth, but they're Green Lanterns, so presumably they'll still be using their Green Lantern powers on Earth. But
as long as they have the budget for it,
as long as they have the budget for it, right? I imagine James Gunn and Peter Safran are opening the the pocketbook to make everything look nice and spiffy for it's HBO too. It's got the HBO branding, so imagine they'll go for it, not hold back. So I'm pretty pumped for this. How about you?
Yeah. I'm excited to kind of get started with some live action DC stuff under new guidance.
Yeah, it's time. Yeah. Like obviously Superman will kick off the live action side of things. Creature Commandos, I think, just dropped on Max, so I think there's a couple episodes of that maybe that are available, which is kind of
the animated
official
deal, right? Yeah,
that's the animated one. So it's kind of the official kickoff for the DCU, but on the animated side of things, with characters that may eventually perhaps cross over into live action and stuff like that. But I think Superman is really going to be the big, like, this is what this universe is going to be like, which is hopefully going to be very, very different from what the prior DCEU was like. I think it's going to have a very, very different tone, look, feel, everything, and hopefully will feel like a breath of fresh air. That's what we want it to be. So I agree, and I think that even if it's a True Detective, is definitely way tonally closer to a DCEU type thing. Like, not everything in the universe has to have the same type of tone. But if it's going to have all the same type of tone, don't let it be the grim, dark, everything is so serious and I can't see fucking shit sort of thing that we had for years and years there. So Lanterns is happening. Kyle Chandler, Aaron Pierre.
Cool.
They are on board, and we'll be getting that, I'd say either late next year, early 26 would be my rough guess, because I don't know if it's actually officially started filming yet even. So there you have it. All right, moving on to other DC things. we don't know exactly what this project is going to shape up to be, but it's been reported that DC Studios is developing a film that will include, or perhaps center around, two big Batman villains, physically large, imposing Batman villains at that. Bane being one of them, and Deathstroke being the second. So we're getting some sort of Bane/Deathstroke thing project. Again, could be a team up. Could be Bane versus Deathstroke. It could be just a Batman movie that has Bane and Deathstroke in it. It could be something that has those characters in it. But the way that it's being reported kind of makes it sound like it will be about those two.
Okay,
which is kind of interesting, and kind of a non-traditional direction. Obviously, I mean, we've had a couple Joker movies and stuff like that, but I think that this would be part of the DCU. Like these would be the canonical versions of these characters and stuff like that. So it's early days. They're just writing a script for it. Matthew Orton's writing it, worked on the upcoming Captain America 4, Brave New World. So does that intrigue you? Does that interest you? Do you like these characters? Would you like to see a movie starring, about, centered on, featuring any of the above?
I like Deathstroke. I like Bane. Sure.
Okay. All right.
I mean, we'll see what we get. I need to start seeing things. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It's all these early days. Like, write a script. All right. Well, unless I can read the script, I don't know what the hell I'm looking at.
Yeah. I need more information, or I need some visual information. You know what I mean? Casting
at least kind of gives you some sort of visual start to things. Of just being like, oh, okay, so and so is going to be Bane. Like for a long time, Dave Bautista has campaigned to be Bane, but I think the most recent report is, because he's dropped some weight. He's still a big guy, but he's dropped some weight that he's like, I don't really know if I want to be Bane anymore. And it's like, yeah, fair enough, dude. Like you probably have to eat 800 chickens to.
Yeah,
to
he said
in
from what I
shape.
understand, he's tired of trying to maintain that aesthetic.
I'm sure it's it's a lifestyle, man. Like that's
absolutely.
They preach to the choir, man. It's too many chickens. Gotta save the chickens, man. All right, so a Bane Deathstroke movie is maybe happening. They're at least writing a script for it. All right, last bit of the DC stuff that we're checking in on this episode as kind of, I think, more or less bringing us up to speed. DC Studios and WB Animation are teaming up. They've greenlit a project that is going to be called Dynamic Duo, which is going to basically be kind of following the early days of Dick Grayson and Jason Todd. Who, we would know as Robin. Both have been iterations of the character
Robin and Nightwing.
And so it is going to be produced by Matt Reeves. I don't know if this is necessarily going to be connected to. I don't think it's not going to be connected to the Batmaniverse. The Batman.
Okay,
it's not going to be connected to those. I don't know if it's going to be connected to the overarching DCU, Superman, Creature Commandos, all that. I'm not clear if this is intended to be kind of an Elseworlds sort of thing. But the big thing about it, which I think makes it very distinct, that brought up WB Animation, it's an animated project, and not only is it an animated project, it is a puppet animated project. It is going to be brought to life using a technology known as quote-unquote Momo animation, which is a cross between CGI animation, practical elements of stop motion, and live-action real-time performance.
What's a Momo animation?
Momo animation. I don't know if that's the literal technique. I don't know if that's what this company that's doing it is kind of like, if they dubbed it that. Animation studio called Swaybox. I'm not really sure. But I don't know. I think there's some test footage and stuff, like you could see, like if you Google Swaybox, I think of kind of what they've worked with, and like kind of what that might look like in terms of the style of it. But it sounds like this is going to be a movie that's in kind of that style that they've done, which is definitely very interesting. So what do you think about that?
I'm watching a thing that the DC actually put out.
Okay.
It's like an Iron Giant re-edition of the. It looks real similar to like It almost kind of looks like chicken run or something like that. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah, definitely those sorts of vibes.
Yeah. Anyways, it's creative direction. I think it sounds. Once again, let me see a trailer. I think, but the art style, I'm not against the art style. I think a lot of good.
Yeah.
I think it's something new and innovative and creative.
Right, and kind of what we talked about, I think, with the Wild Robot episode is, it's nice to see movies that break away from even the kind of the traditional 3D animation, obviously that we saw with that movie, with Spider-Verse, Turtles, and other things that are really just kind of doing stuff that's different. And obviously, again, like claymation and stuff is like fucking neat too. And this is kind of maybe, a cousin of that in some ways.
It's just like you said earlier. It's nice.
Sure.
It's nice to have some DC stuff that's not part of the Snyderverse, and by making something kind of like this, it kind of seems like, oh, this is going to be kind of lighthearted and refreshing. It might be fun to watch versus sour and dour and whatnot.
Definitely.
So yeah, I'm here for it.
Very good. Very good. Well, certainly as we learn more about all these DC projects, we'll check back in on them. But that's what I have for now. We've got a few other headlines, then we'll get some trailers. God of War is getting a TV series. I think we probably would have talked about it once upon a time. And Amazon and Sony have decided we are going to restart making the God of War series.
That's not promising.
"Quote unquote," staging a do-over. It's very weird.
Staging a do-over.
Staging a do-over. The showrunner / exec producer Rafe Judkins, who's been working on the Amazon Wheel of Time series, and executive producers Hawk Ostby and Mark Fergus, who worked on The Expanse most recently, or maybe other stuff since then, but definitely worked on The Expanse show. They've all left the project. They wrote scripts. They turned them in. According to according to Deadline, the scripts were good. But they just want to go in a different creative direction for some reason.
Okay.
So I don't really know what that means. I don't know if it's like, the only thing I could think of is these guys wanted to do like full on Greek, Kratos, set storyline, like adapting the earlier games or something like that. And then Amazon and Sony's like, no, people really like the Norse stuff. Like, let's do the Norse stuff now. Let's just go straight to the Norse stuff. And he's got a kid, boy, that sort of thing. I don't know. That's the only thing I can think of is why they would just
scrap everything.
If it is actually good, why they would just, scrap it, chuck it in the bin, and then kind of start anew and bringing in different people. So either way, slightly concerning, one might think, in terms of just being like, just chuck it in the bin, let's start over. But what do you think? I mean,
it's just bizarre because the games were effectively movies on their own. All the games.
Yeah, going back to the originals too, for sure.
So
very cinematic.
So, like, what are we scrapping? Like, how far off? Like you said, it has to be just different pantheons. Like, that'd be the only reason to scrap an entire project, right? Because I don't know. Yeah, the bumpers are pretty far in the lane. You know what I mean?
Right. Like, it's like maybe it was all Norse stuff, but they were just drifting too far or they were being too slavish to the video game, and they're like, no, it's got to be different from the game. I don't really know. I don't know. It's a little odd. I do think that God of, as far as video game adaptations go, God of War is definitely a series that I think
pretty
could
adaptable.
lend itself to a pretty badass TV show.
Absolutely.
So I think it definitely could work. But it's definitely a little troubling in terms of the behind the scenes shenanigans happening. So I don't know. We'll see. I do think it could be really cool. I myself actually busted out my PS3 just a couple days ago, and I played like the first hour of the original God of War. It's like the HD version that's part of the God of War saga.
Wow. What spurred that?
So I just
wanting a button masher, huh?
Yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to just give it a go. I think at some point I would like to. I still haven't played the newer God of Wars. The Norse ones. I haven't played that, or that one and Ragnarok. So I think I want to kind of do that, but there's always the part of my brain that's like, no, you got to go back and do the whole thing. It's like, so I'll probably slowly but surely make my way through the series and get to those games by the time a third one comes out, or another. Once they go to a different pantheon, I'll probably be ready by then. So. Yeah, I don't know. I just busted it out, and it's cool, man. It's definitely a button masher, but it's pretty fun. So, yeah,
cool games.
I like God of War. I hope this works out. I hope that whatever decision they're making is the right one. It has all of the reason in the world to work. You know what I mean? If it doesn't work, it is because the people making it have failed. So, yeah, that's my stance on this. So, hey, if it means getting it right. Okay.
Just get it right. Okay. That's all. Yeah.
So, yeah, there we go. All right, moving on. Star Wars. We're getting more Star Wars. We're getting more Star Wars movies.
Star Wars movies?
Star Wars movies.
Okay.
Simon Kinberg has closed a deal with Lucasfilm to develop a trilogy of Star Wars films that he will write and produce. Doesn't sound like he'll direct, which is good because he's only directed one movie and apparently wasn't very good. I've seen conflicting reports of how this will, be placed in the timeline.
Okay.
But Deadline is saying this is effectively going to be episodes 10 through 12, is what they're saying.
Okay.
And so, there's been other sources that are disputing that and saying that it, is a new saga that is not necessarily a continuation of the Skywalker saga. Presumably if it was episodes 10 through 12, then maybe you're talking legacy characters. Maybe you're talking a Rey, a Finn, a Poe, all, some are all coming back for something like that. Whereas if it was kind of its own saga, separate from that, then you could kind of do whatever the hell you wanted and focus on anyone you want and a different point of the timeline. You could do High Republic, you could do Old Republic, you could do whatever you want. Probably not High Republic. The Acolyte probably killed those dreams of a live action film trilogy in that timeline. But yeah, so maybe episodes 10 through 12 happening. Big news, kind of in a vacuum if you kind of think about that. But Simon Kinberg is the guy to do that. You might be thinking, does this guy have the chops? Well, let's take a look at this man's.
Let's look at his track record.
Let's take a look at his track record. I'm sorry, he's directed 2 movies, but we'll get to that. He, in his lifetime, has written the likes of XXX State of the Union, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, X-Men The Last Stand, Jumper, Sherlock Holmes, the Robert Downey Jr. one, X-Men Days of Future Past, Fantastic Four, Fant Four Stick, X-Men Apocalypse, Dark Phoenix, which he also directed, The 355, which he also directed, and he's writing a movie that, I guess it came out, I've never heard of it. It's called Killer's Game, but it's got Dave Bautista in it, who maybe not Bane Bautista. He also got a thanks credit for being a creative consultant on Star Wars The Force Awakens and a thanks credit on Rogue One. So he's clearly had some entanglements with Star Wars previously. He actually wrote on Star Wars Rebels in some for some episodes, it looks like. So he did work with Dave Filoni on that. Yeah, that's your track record. So how does that impact how you feel about this news?
Sounds like he's a prolific writer. He writes a lot of things.
Yeah, and some of them, I don't know. Some of them pretty bad.
Some of them are pretty bad.
It's worrisome. This man just really he just really wants to tell the Dark Phoenix saga. That's really that's this man's fucking dream in life. Is just I just want to tell this story. I have to tell this story, and I have to tell it badly every time because I don't fundamentally understand any of it. But I don't know. I mean, he's not directing, he's just writing Star Wars. It'll go through different passes in the scripting stage, I'm sure. Also, it's another announcement of Star Wars movies, so actually it'll probably not happen at all because we're still waiting on Kevin Feige's, Taika Waititi's, James Mangold's. We're waiting on all these fucking movies that they keep announcing to be made, and Rogue Squadron, how's that going, Patty? So,
Star
even
Wars
if it feels like...
Star Wars has not had the easiest time.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's a pretty sizable internet brigade against Kathleen Kennedy, who's in charge of Lucasfilm for kind of the way that she's handled Star Wars since Disney since Disney acquired Lucasfilm. And I feel like in the early days of The Force Awakens, Last Jedi, I never really felt like she was mismanaging it. Like Rogue One, I thought was awesome, and but it definitely feels like the past few years they've really kind of bumbled around.
They have, and they've botched.
And like there's been good stuff there, and there's been stuff that I've liked, even if it hasn't been as good. Like Andor is incredible, like peak Star Wars.
Absolutely.
But then there's Boba Fett, there's the Acolyte. And then there's just this lack of real any films, and the last film they put out was a huge piece of shit in Rise of Skywalker. So it's like, I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying that she should be fired or anything like that, but I have to say I have some concerns about the direction of Star Wars at the same time, and this doesn't inspire more confidence. If anything, it kind of has the opposite effect.
It's
but
concerning.
I don't know, man. I guess at this point with Star Wars, especially because there's just so much content out there, it's the same thing with Marvel. Expect it to be hit and miss, and maybe that's the way that, you kind of have to roll with it, is some of it's going to be great, some of it's going to be good, some of it's going to be okay, and you know what? Some of it might be kind of bad, It might be borderline. Like Marvel had a great track record for a while, and I think in the past few years, they've put out some, clunkers for sure, some clankers. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not thrilled, but I kind of find it because of just kind of how Star Wars has been. Like, it's not that I don't care. I love Star Wars, obviously. I will watch most, if not all of these things.
Absolutely.
Skeleton Crew just dropped on Disney Plus. I haven't watched it yet. The Acolyte, I binged towards the end. Like, I always get around to these sorts of things, but it's because there's just more of it out there now. Like, I don't feel as invested or engaged of I must consume this immediately, day zero sort of thing. So if this could work out, it could be great. It could also be
I can tell you that if it involves,
I don't know, man.
If it involves Jude Law, it'll probably be pretty fucking awesome.
I mean, I like Jude Law. I've heard good things about Skeleton Crew, so
pretty great. I'm not going to say pretty great. I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to say Jude Law.
Well, it's not done yet, but maybe off to a good start. You could say if you've watched some of the early episodes. But
Jude Law is an entertaining actor. You know what I'm saying?
He's great. Yeah, he's very good. Very good. Yeah. So, all right. Well, I mean, that's what's happened with Star Wars. So we'll see what happens. This is very much they keep talking about a lot of things until we really kind of see it. Made and
Did you watch stuff like the Empire animated deal, the 3-episode deal?
No, I didn't watch that. That's on my list. That was around, and I think the second season of Visions as well is on my list too. So
very good.
Yeah, there's always stuff out there. Jedi Survivor is on my list. I think I have it installed on my PS5, but haven't actually played through it yet. So
very good.
Outlaws just came out.
I didn't play. I haven't touched that. I don't know anything about that game. I haven't.
Yeah, it's more like bounty hunter type thing, but less lightsaber focused combat and shooting stuff. So, but it's like Assassin's Creed Star Wars version. This basically kind of seems like what it is, which is fine, if you like that sort of thing. So, anyway, that's what's going on. Simon Kinberg, he's gonna do something. Maybe we'll find out.
All right, Simon, don't fuck it up.
Don't fuck it up. That's the key. Don't fuck it up. All right, now last headline. Christopher Nolan. He's up to things again.
Ooh.
He's been done with Oppenheimer, of course. The gears are turning in his head of what he's going to be doing for his next project, and the movie is going to come out July 17th of 2026. So we know that's happening. It'll be released in IMAX.
What do you think I'm gonna
big surprise?
Not to derail the conversation here, okay? But what do you think it's like to be a Nolan, Tarantino? You could probably find a few more people, and maybe a Ridley Scott, even though he just seems to he has this thing that he does. But to just be a creative person like Nolan, right? Mm-hmm. Where it just seems like, okay, he's done with Oppenheimer, now he's working on his next project, and he just
all in.
Yeah, like just to have I know what movie I want to make, and I know what I want to make, and I know how I want to make it, and that's what he does. You know, because some directors are like, I don't know, I feel like some people are given projects and then they're
like, I need a paycheck, you know, or like, even if it's not going to be a paycheck movie, it's like they don't have that sort of creative part of the brain that is firing on all cylinders at all hours of the day, where it's just like
this is the way it's written. This is because, I mean, Nolan is ground up movie maker. You know what I mean? Like, he's involved in the writing process. He's involved in all aspects. Yeah.
Definitely.
Right. He's not a project movie maker.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? He's not like
that. Right. Not all directors are like that. Some directors are very simply, obviously still very creative people, but you know,
absolutely,
they don't like until they're on board and signed a contract to work on the project.
Stuart says, "Hey, I put Ron Howard on this thing
from the
inception. I want Ron Howard to put this movie together. Make this movie, Ron."
When Ron Howard tried to repair Solo, a Star Wars story, it wasn't because Ron Howard had been dreaming about a Han Solo movie for years and years prior to that. It was because they said, hey, these two fucks keep doing crazy shit. We need you to come in and
just make this movie,
to make
please.
Like a coherent movie. Like just do something. We don't like what they're doing, you know. So come in and just make a fucking normal ass movie, you know. And you know, and he's like, okay, you know. So yeah, like it's a very different sort of creative process. I don't know. I mean, I think if you're a Nolan type, a Tarantino type,
your brain just doesn't stop. You know?
Yeah, it is nonstop. It's fucking Hamilton, Alexander Hamilton, man. You know, it's just the man is nonstop.
Yeah,
and that's how Nolan has been. I think for really his whole career is just You know, some people are just wired that way, like that they live and breathe this sort of shit.
And it's awesome,
you know,
especially when they're good at it. You know what I mean? I'm sure a lot of people probably have endless brains, but. You know, anyways,
on one hand, it might be overwhelming at times just to have all these ideas and being overflowing. But, you know, at the end of the day, he's also probably pretty well off and has, you know, at this point in his career has the clout to just make whatever the fuck he wants. Yeah. You know, and
Guillermo del Toro was another guy, you know,
last year. Yeah, totally. You know, so, I mean, it's probably not a bad place to be in, especially now. I think probably it was more frustrating in the early days when you run into the roadblocks, when you run into studios that say, no, you got to do it this way, or, you know, we're going to change that, you know, or that you can't do that. He can do whatever the fuck he wants now, but you have to earn that right. You know what I mean? So I think once you can kind of unlock that, then, you know, you can just, your creativity is kind of unbounded, which is probably pretty gratifying to experience. But, so at this point in time, I think it feels pretty good to be Christopher Nolan. And he's feeling pretty good about what's going on with this next project, and clearly lots of people are liking it too, or at least want the chance to work with Christopher Nolan because dude's putting together an impressive cast and an all-star cast for his next film. We don't have a title; we just have that release date, that July 2026 release date. But there have been rumors about what it's going to be about. One was there was a rumor that it was going to be like a futuristic movie where like centered on helicopter pilots. There was also rumors that it was going to be a vampire movie, which is kind of interesting because Ryan Coogler is doing his vampire thing early next year.
Is that a vampire movie?
I think it's vampire related, centers.
Vampire adjacent?
Yes, in some way, I think. But Deadline says that all of those rumors are wrong. So we have no idea what this movie is about. We just know that it is going to start shooting soon, and it is going to star Matt Damon. Matt Damon. I kind of almost said it in the same tone without even intentionally doing it. Matt Damon. Matt Damon. It will also star Tom Holland. Anne Hathaway. Tom Holland's lady friend, Zendaya. Robert Pattinson, the Pattinson. Robert Pattinson, Lupita Nyong'o, the wild robot. She's in it. Okay. And the latest that I've seen to join is Charlize Theron. So that's a pretty good cast.
I'd say so. Absolutely.
Very impressive. Robert Downey Jr. is probably too busy Dr. Dooming about to be in this movie, but otherwise he'd probably be in it. But yeah, what do you think? Are you pumped? I feel like it is going to be because he bounces back, right? His whole thing, I feel like, is bouncing back between more creative, out there shit and historical shit. So we got Oppenheimer, we got the historical shit. Tenet was the one most prior, immediately prior to that.
Yeah.
And then it was Dunkirk, then it was Interstellar. That's probably more of the trend recently, I guess. Dark Knight Rises, Inception, Dark Knight, Prestige. Doesn't really fall in that trend, but in the past 10 years, he's kind of bounced back and forth. So I feel like he's swinging the needle from historical biopic and Oppenheimer probably to Nolan doing crazy shit.
Something a little bit more fictional?
Something a little bit more fictional, a little bit more out there would be my guess, a little bit more fantastical. So that's my guess. I don't know that for a fact, but I feel like we would know if it's like, it's another, historical biopic. I think we would know that because, who's Matt Damon playing? Who's Tom Holland? So I think it's definitely going to be an original thing from Nolan, which is very cool. So I'm pumped. How about you?
Yeah, I hope it's, it's going to be heady. He likes to make all those movies are real heady.
For sure. Hopefully not Tenet levels of.
You kind of got me pumped on a Nolan vampire movie. That'd be pretty.
That would be cool. I wouldn't be mad about it. It's apparently not going to happen, or at least maybe they're just denying everything so that people are thrown off the scent of blood. But I'm there. It's Nolan. I'm there for Nolan. Yeah.
So
I mean, right? Yeah.
All-star cast.
You don't really need to do a lot to convince us. But hey, signing a very impressive cast certainly helps. Yeah. So, all right. Well, we'll check back in on that once we get some more details, the title, some plot details. Yeah, I feel like better recently, but I guess recently just being Oppenheimer. So.
Yeah, I can't really. I mean, if you fuck up Oppenheimer, you've done something real wrong. Bunch of scientists talking the whole movie.
For sure, that's true. Leave it to Nolan though to somehow make that shit inaudible. He didn't do that, so there is that. I mean, atomic bomb exploding like that could have good sound design in that movie. Good sound design. So,
yeah.
Anyway, let's move on. We've got 5 trailers to talk about. Mostly movies, 1 TV show, I think. Yeah, just 1 TV show. We'll get to that. We're going to start with a trailer for a movie called Love Hurts, starring 2 Academy Award winners. Kiwi Kwan is the lead in this. It's his first major leading man role, and he'll be there alongside Ariana DeBose, who won her Oscar for West Side Story, in case anyone was wondering. It's sort of like he's a John Wick type maybe, but he's Key, so he's a little more mild-mannered and innocent, in his current modern life as he's left behind this past life. But the past always comes to roost. So he's got to spring back in action. Marshawn Lynch is on his tail. And other people are trying to kill him. What do you think? Did you
I think it looks like a lot of fun. Yeah.
Agreed. Very, very fun. Very fun looking trailer. And I think just seeing Key and
how do you know
the lead role is awesome.
He's a Paul Rudd type. You know what I mean? Like, how do you like?
I think we can formally adopt the policy of if you don't like Kiwi Kwan, then they don't like you. Yeah. It's just as simple as that. Like, you can just go fuck yourself. Okay.
Right. And I think you would know. Yeah, I need to fuck myself. Like, I don't know what it is about him. I just don't like him, and I know I'm wrong. Like, there's no, anyone it's indefensible.
That watches Everything Everywhere All at Once and comes away not liking Key, go fuck yourself.
And out of nowhere. He came out of nowhere.
Yeah, right. I mean, totally. Like, if you want to say he's annoying as Short Round, okay. You're probably not wrong. He's a little annoying. He's a little annoying in the Temple of Doom. But guess what? Newsflash, Temple of Doom kind of fucking sucks as a movie. I just got to say it. I probably said it when we did our bonus episode many years. Temple of Doom kind of sucks, my dude. Yeah. So, he's great in the Goonies, though. You can't knock on Data.
No.
Anyone knocks on Data, that's wrong. That's fucking wrong. So, anyway, yeah, I think he couldn't get the roles, He just couldn't get the roles, Hollywood kind of shut him out. He worked as a stunt choreographer, did, stuff behind the scenes until, kind of was, given the opportunity and Everything Everywhere and earned it, obviously, too. But, showed that he's awesome. He was great in Loki recently, too, So,
yeah.
I'm just excited to see, a future in which we're getting movies with Kiwi Kwan, leading the charge. I think it's really awesome. I think this looks like a lot of fun, very fun. Looks like it's going to be a fun, zippy sort of thing. In the vein, it's not really John Wicky in tone. It looks kind of, I've seen a lot of comparisons to Nobody, the Bob Odenkirk movie, which I still haven't seen, but definitely gives me those vibes.
Kind of reminds me of Bullet Train a little bit.
Bullet Train's the same producers, it looks like. Same company kind of doing. So Violent Night, which was the David Harbour Santa one, Atomic Blonde, and The Fall Guys. The producers did all those movies. And definitely feels like all of those kind of have relatively similar sensibilities. Not to say that they're all the same movie, but, if you like that sort of movie, this looks like the movie that's going to be kind of up your alley. And I think that I like all those movies.
Fun,
so I think this is going to be up my alley.
Action movie. It's cool.
Yeah, and like the choreography feels like it's going to be cool.
Yes.
So where it's not going to hold back its punches. It's probably going to be pretty violent and looks like a kind of just a fun thrill ride of a movie. So
cool.
I'm looking forward to it. February 7th, we'll be getting this next year. Love Hurts. Moving on, Universal says, Disney, you've set the trend for remaking your classic animated films, and Universal is taking it a step further, and now we're getting live action adaptations of our 3D animated films. That,
Hold my beer, they said.
That hadn't, obviously, the first of this franchise came out over 10 years ago, right? 2010, yep. So, it's been almost 50, it'll have been about 15 years since the original.
We're getting old.
The inspiration for this happened, but we are getting a live action adaptation of How to Train Your Dragon. June 13th of next year, it's coming. Fascinating thing is it's being directed by Dean DeBlois, who wrote and directed How to Train Your Dragon, the animated movie. So, I guess if you're going to do it, hire the guy that made it in the first place. I think that's probably, a relatively smart idea. But how do you feel? How do you feel about a live action How to Train Your Dragon? I think probably the most obvious answer to the question, or maybe the most obvious question to ask is, do we need this? I think we could probably say the answer is probably not.
Probably not. Yeah, we definitely don't need it. Are you going to tell the same story? It definitely looks like we're frame for frame.
It looks very, very similar.
Frame for frame.
Very similar. And so it's are we Lion Kinging this shit? Like, what are we doing here?
And if you are Lion Kinging it, I think they're doing a superior job because
yes, I would agree with that.
Fucking incredible.
Yeah, it's interesting that the dragon design seems to be just lifted wholesale. Like they didn't try to, better textures or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
It's very, very 1-to-1 with the animation style
and looks
design, which is kind of interesting.
So good.
It looks good. Yeah. Look, here's
even
the thing.
The eyeball, like it had like the fucking.
Yeah.
There's something about these How to Train Your Dragon animators, like the DreamWorks animators, that just like they like, listen, we're gonna zoom in on this fucking eyeball, okay? And we need this eyeball to recreate an eyeball. You know what I mean? And they just spend 3 weeks, 2 months making the animation of this dragon's eyeball look lifelike. I'm blown away. It's almost sand. It's almost just like the sand.
Right. Yeah. No, that's fair. As was true with The Lion King, if you are going to do a frame-by-frame live action adaptation, the source material has to be good. And you know what? That first How to Train Your Dragon movie is very, very good. All of those movies are very, very good. So it's not the worst idea to just stick to the source material, stick to the original and just make it for an older audience or a newer audience or whatever, kind of the idea is here, just for the mere novelty of seeing it in this form. So
I do have one problem.
Yeah, sure. Go. What's your problem?
My one problem is I kind of got. I'm sure that he's definitely younger than that. There's this actor that plays in this musical. And he's like 40 years old, but he's supposed to be playing like a ninth grader or something in high school.
Oh, Evan Hansen?
Yes, that guy. All right. I'm kind of getting the same vibes with this guy. Like I feel like he's too old he's like where he needs to be at the end of the series. You know what I mean?
He's probably older than, well, sort of, because Hiccup had a beard at the end, in like the third movie.
That's
so
true.
probably not quite there yet.
Yeah, right. Okay.
But I do think I would guess maybe that he is playing older than Hiccup was in the original.
Okay.
I think just probably based on his age, and if they want to make more of these, then you kind of have to start with them older. But I mean, yeah, I think that I guess I agree. I mean, I'll look up how old he is. He's 17, so I mean, he's not that old. But I don't know how old Hiccup's supposed to be, and like he's probably closer to like a 13 or 14, I would guess, in the first movie. So it's probably aged up a little bit if I had to guess, but I don't know. I mean, it's definitely not Evan Hansen levels of
No.
at least in terms of
No.
the age of the actor, but maybe he just looks kind of mature for his age or something like that, and that's giving you or just relative to kind of what you're used to the character looking like. The dragons look the same, and this kid doesn't look like a kid. He looks like a 17-year-old. He's a teenager. Or he's nearly an adult. So
and is his dad played by
Gerard Butler.
Jerry
Butler.
Okay, yeah.
Who voiced the character in the movies as well, which is fun. So he's on board as Stoic the Vast.
I like it. I'm there for that.
I mean, I think this could be really good. I think the fact that they've hired, again, the guy that did it in the first place, I think is interesting. I'm curious to see how someone basically does a remake of their own movie, in a different format. Like, that's kind of a really interesting experiment to see. I think that the casting seems to be pretty solid overall. I think the look of it is pretty solid. The recreation of it is pretty good. And like, I guess it's like, do I need it? No. I mean, is anyone asking for this? Probably not either. But that doesn't mean it has to be bad, and some of those Disney ones have been good. Some of them have been absolutely fucked. Could have had a Snow White trailer on this episode, but I saved us from that, it could go either way. And the Lion King one was a great tech demo, but was fucking kind of boring. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think
it was missing some of the spirit.
This seems to have more of a spark, a soul to it than the Lion King had a kind of sort of soulless quality to it. I think because it was trying to make everything so lifelike. This doesn't have that. Like, if you had made the dragons super grounded, realistic looking, maybe you strip kind of the emotionality of the connection between Hiccup and Toothless right off the bat. By kind of retaining the sensibilities, the design, maybe you let it just kind of be the story that it was and should be. So I don't know. I mean, I'll watch it. I mean, I'm probably going to watch it. It's those animated movies are fantastic. So
yeah,
if it at least turns people onto the fact that, like, I should have watched those, it will have done something good for this world, of just showing people that those movies are incredible. Should not be underrated and should not be discounted as kids' movies, blah, blah. Like, they're deep, emotionally rich movies. So,
totally.
Great fucking
that.
sand. Great fucking sand in that.
Great
third
sand.
One. All right. Ready to move on to our next trailer?
Let's do it.
Our lone TV show, Castlevania Nocturne, is returning with its second season in January. January,
nice.
It's coming to Netflix. January 16th will drop on Netflix. I would presume another eight episodes roughly, in line with whatever the first season had. Alucard's in it. He's here. He seems to be a lot more involved than he was in the first season, to my recollection, which I never finished.
Oh, no.
Richter Belmont's here. You finished the first season, I'm sure.
I did.
And so what do you think? You jazzed for a return of Nocturne?
I am.
Okay.
I can't remember.
Would you recommend I go back and finish that first season? Like, it was pretty good, right? I think, like, it maybe not the original Castlevania Netflix series.
Yeah, it's still pretty cool,
heights,
though.
But still pretty cool, pretty good. I feel like that was kind of my sense.
Cool shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I should do it. I should just go back and finish. It's not that long.
Nah, it's pretty breezy. You could probably knock it out in a night or two. Pretty cool. I like it. I'm there for the animation. I'm there for the cool stuff. It's my anime fix since I don't watch a lot of anime, but it's got the same kind of, especially this one. There's a lot of he looks kind of like Super Saiyan a little bit. Gets powered up in this one a couple times, so it looks pretty cool. I do recommend you finish up season 1 in time for season 2 because this one looks like it's right around the corner.
About a month from recording.
Pleasant surprise.
Yeah, no, that's the one of the nice things about the Netflix way is just be like, yeah, we're done. It's animated. It's ready to go. Catch it in a month.
Yeah,
So, all right, I will make it a point to go back and finish up Nocturne because again, we would have had a couple episodes in which we've talked about it, but that first Castlevania Netflix series is fucking dope.
Yeah,
it's cool as
very
hell.
Cool.
And it was awesome the whole way through. And Nocturne is obviously kind of jumping forward a few hundred years from the events of that series, but it definitely seems to retain the same tone, style, and obviously some character crossover here for characters that have the ability to live lengthy lives. So, yeah, all right. So Nocturne, maybe we'll check back in on it come January. We've had a chance to watch it. So, all right, 2 more trailers. Next one, another Paramount Pictures movie, much like Gladiator II, which we're going to get to shortly, I promise. Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, because Dead Reckoning Part 2 wasn't good enough. So now we have Dead Reckoning Part 1 leading into The Final Reckoning, which I'm just going to say I think is a bad title. I think it's a dumb and stupid sounding title, and it should have just been called Dead Reckoning Part 2. All right. I know that there's a trend to get away from, calling Part 1, Part 2. They're going to blame, box office stuff on Part 1 being in it, but whatever. It's a dumb title. That aside, this is maybe it. This is maybe the last hurrah for Tom Cruise's Ethan Hunt. End
of an era.
End of an era. If it's the final reckoning, I mean, maybe it's not his final reckoning, I guess, if he decides, I like hanging on to planes too much, I'm going to do it again. Because doing it in this one. But, it's a smaller plane than the one, a couple movies ago.
Yeah, it's true. And it's upside down.
It flies upside down. That's the twist. Yeah. He's doing crazy shit. He's running around a lot.
Yeah.
He's Ethan hunting about.
I'm glad to see that if this is his final reckoning, it looks like he's getting all his final steps in. Because dude's running around everywhere. Which is awesome. And we get the 80s submarine battle in the underwear with the which is pretty cool. Sure. The set pieces in these movies, man. Tom Cruise is an awesome filmmaker. They don't make these kinds of movies I feel like they very seldom get made. Just awesome filmmaker. I'm excited to watch it. So this is the last one we get. I'm sure it's going to be a banger. I love the Mission Impossible movies. We did a bonus episode on Mission Impossibles, didn't we?
We did. I think maybe leading into Fallout, maybe?
Yeah, before Henry Cavill. Before the fist bumps?
Yeah, I can't remember if it was leading into that or I think it must have been, because I feel like if we had done it leading into Dead Reckoning Part 1, I feel like it would feel more recent to me. Early days. Episode 53, we did our Mission Impossible bonus episode, first 5 movies in the franchise, and then we covered Fallout. And then we did, of course, cover Dead Reckoning Part 1 far more recently than that. We
used to crank some shit out, didn't we?
We did. Yeah, I mean, that's 5 movies that we watched for one bonus episode, That's serious business right there. We just do it just for the fucking people on Patreon, man. Those days are gone. But we can make it to a theater to watch Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. And
we can do that.
So we can theoretically conclude our Mission Impossible coverage, our long-running Mission Impossible coverage. It's May 23rd. That's coming out next year.
Not that far away.
Mean, it looks like more Mission Impossible, and to me, enough said. Like
how can you?
Tom Cruise is just. It's got ridiculous set pieces. Like it doesn't seem to have like a focus on like one big thing. Like he's driving off the cliff. Like, it doesn't seem to have that sort of push in this one. Like, it's got him hanging on the plane.
That plane sequence.
I think that's the closest to it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't. It seems to be more. There's a bunch of shit going on in this. Like, we're not relying on just the one big thing, and we're going to have the, 5-minute behind the scenes video of like, he fucking did it, man. He drove that motorcycle
6 times.
6 times. Yeah. Like,
over and over and over and over again.
We'll probably get that for the plane shit at some point, obviously, too, but it doesn't seem like they're relying on the fact that, like, you watch this movie, you're coming to see that fucking jump. Like, you're coming to see this movie, you're coming to see it because it's going to have a bunch of shit that's absolutely batshit. And it's Tom Cruise running around, everyone's in here too. Like, Haley Atwell's back. Ving Rhames is there. Simon Pegg's there. Unclear if Jeremy's going to be back. Probably not. So... but it's got Kittredge. It's cool. I'm really looking forward to it. May 23rd, we're getting the final reckoning. I'm pretty excited for it. Pretty excited to see what we get. $400 million budget.
$400 million
That's
budget.
Insane.
What?
That's insane.
What the fuck? No way.
That's what Wikipedia says.
What's the budget on Top Gun?
Probably half that. Well, let's check.
$400 million.
Top Gun Maverick had a budget of 170 to 177, so less than half than 400. I think it was affected by the strikes.
And Tom Cruise was flying F-16s and shit in Top Gun.
Yeah, that's true.
What's he doing in this to constitute $400 million?
That's a great question. I actually don't know.
That's
That'll be our fun fact, is dissecting how the fuck did they spend so much money on this movie and where did it go. So
incredible.
Come May, we'll do some digging. We'll do some digging and figure out what the hell happened. So all right, that's the final reckoning and our final trailer for the episode. A movie that I have to imagine you're pretty stoked for. It's a long time coming. 28 years later, the next entry in the 28 blank later franchise, following up from 28 Weeks Later, which came out 17 years ago. Now you feel old.
Yeah.
And 28 Days Later, which came out in 2002, 22 years ago. Now you feel even older. But Danny Boyle's back directing. Alex Garland is back writing. They've reunited for 28 years later, coming to theaters June 20th, 2025. It's a new cast. Jodie Comer, Aaron Taylor-Johnson, Ray Fiennes, Cillian Murphy back in some capacity. We might see him at one point in this trailer. People have speculated that maybe he's looking a little emaciated in a particular thing, if that is indeed Cillian Murphy, which it could be. How are you feeling? Dude, are you digging 28 years later? Are you excited for 28 years later?
I very much am. Very, very much.
All right. What about it?
So probably the cinematography in this looks
definitely
so unnerving.
Stands out.
It's shot. I mean, it looks like it's shot guerrilla style for a lot of it. And it's just it.
Definitely makes it feel closer to what we got with Days than what we did with Weeks. Weeks is like a standard kind of movie. 28 Days obviously was shot with that shitty fucking camera and just kind of the long lingering shots of the empty London and everything, and like just like kind of a haunting feel to that. This seems to be closer to that, and obviously of this far-flung post-apocalyptic sort of future where obviously bad things have happened, with 3 decades of this virus.
Yeah, it looks like you got some cult shit going on here. There was, if I'm not, I can't remember. Maybe we'll need a bonus episode for this.
Well, we've actually talked about, I think, both of those movies on I think our COVID episode. I think we might have, I don't know if we did one or both.
Did we watch both of them?
I'm gonna fact check that as well. We definitely talked about them.
28 Days, maybe?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out, is if we would have done both. We got to go to the dark times. The dark times. Now we did 28 Days Later and 28 Weeks Later.
Did we really?
Seven
Holy shit.
Seal, 12 Monkeys, The Host, Contagion.
Oh, we got to watch some bangers in there. That was good.
That was a 6-movie bonus episode. Man, we didn't have anything to do during COVID other than watch movies, apparently.
Okay.
Watch movies about viruses destroying the world. It was really fun. But yeah, no. So we've kind of already done that.
Okay.
Another thing. This is. There's going to be more of these movies. I think it's maybe a theoretical trilogy that they're doing.
Oh wow!
But the next one, I think they've already shot the next one. So like, and it's not. I think Danny Boyle is not back directing. I think Alex Garland is back writing the second one. But like they're going all in. Like we're back. 28 blank is black.
But Danny's not directing the sequel.
He's not directing the sequel. No. I think he did this one, and maybe he said, I did Days. I've done this. I've left my stamp. Let other people kind of pick up the torch and run with it. But
okay.
But yeah.
Well, yeah. I'm on board for this one.
Yeah,
very excited.
The audio of the trailer was very.
Yeah, what's going on? What is that?
It's apparently a reading of a Rudyard Kipling poem from like 1915, and so I don't really know what the relevance is, other than I guess they just thought thematically and eeriness wise it would fit. And
who finds that fucking audio? Like,
right? Yeah. I don't know what the full story is of how
interesting
they arrived at it, but it's very well done, very effective trailer, I thought. So I'm pumped. I'm excited for this. I think just Danny Boyle and Alex Garland back together.
Yeah, it's really awesome.
I mean, how could you not be
really awesome?
Not be excited
it's gonna be
right.
It's going to be incredible. Very excited.
Yeah. All right. 28 years later. And it's actually only coming out less than 28 years after the other one, but it's okay.
Close.
They don't know how to math good. Or they could make it and just sit on it until they could release it. Like, yeah, it came out 28 years later. Exactly. And it's like, yeah, but you fucking made it 5 years ago. Yeah, you shitbag. Why are you holding on to it? Why are you holding out on us, huh? I don't know. Anyway, that's it. That's our news. That's everything. That's the thing. That's all of it. But it's not everything for this episode because we have a movie to talk about. Are you ready to talk Gladiator 2?
Let's talk about Gladiator 2. Let's do it.
Do you have things to say about Gladiator 2?
I've got a couple things to say about Gladiator 2.
Okay, well, let's set the stage. Gladiator 2, it's in theaters now. Go check it out if you so desire, or maybe wait and hear what we have to say before you make that decision. The movie was written by David Scarpa, directed by Ridley Scott, stars Paul Mescal, Pedro Pascal, Joseph Quinn, Fred Heschinger, Connie Nielsen, Derek Jacobi, and Denzel Washington. After his home is conquered by the tyrannical emperors who now lead Rome, a new gladiator is forced to enter the Colosseum and must look to his past to find strength to return the glory of Rome to its people. You ready for a box office breakdown?
That kind of sounded like a horn.
Breakdown. It's all right. It was pretty good. It was a pretty standard box office breakdown, which is I think that's fine.
All right. We'll roll with it.
So so Gladiator 2 came out the same weekend as Wicked, which Glicked is kind of what we brought it up earlier. It's kind of the Barbenheimer of 2024, although not quite to the same extent. Unsurprisingly, the PG-rated movie, Wicked, is doing better than Gladiator 2. Did do better than Gladiator 2. But Gladiator 2...
Unexpected, right?
The definitely very rated R movie still did pretty well. It came out with $55.5 million in its opening weekend. It's the biggest opening weekend of Denzel Washington's career.
Wow.
Best opening for a November R-rated film. Dropped 44% in its second weekend, which that's kind of the Thanksgiving frame. It made $44 million if you include the whole like Wednesday to Sunday Thanksgiving period. And it dropped to third because Moana came out at that point, so it fell behind both Moana and Wicked. But and so it's like lagging behind both of those. But yeah, no shit, you know what I mean? So that's not really like the greatest comparison. In terms of pure numbers, domestically, it's at $135 million. Let's say 3 weeks into its release. at this point of recording. Worldwide tallies about $371 million, which is, I think, pretty good. We're looking at probably not a $400 million budget here. Let's try a budget of, not far off, $250 to $350 million.
What?
Reported. So a pretty hefty budget, I will say.
Well, they pay for Denzel.
They got to pay for Denzel and
Pedro's a big name.
Pedro probably, he probably gets the big bucks these days at this point, right? So you got to pay them. You got to pay to recreate ancient fucking Rome. You got to pay for sharks to be in naval Colosseum battles. You got to pay for some shit. Got to pay for some baboons. Or don't pay them. Pay people to animate baboons. Could do that.
Or whatever the fuck that one thing was.
We'll get there.
Pay for fucking shadow creatures. They ran out of money because they brought the sharks in, so they had to settle for some sort of animals from
some sort of thing,
some horror movie or something.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it.
So I mean, it's done pretty well, but I don't think I realized how big that fucking budget was. So I don't know if it's good. I mean, I guess probably at the end of the day, it's not going to lose money. I don't know if it's going to be a massive success or anything like that financially. If it's a $250 million budget, then I think they're in better position. If it's 350, then it's kind of teetering on the line of, was it worth spending all that money? I mean, again, they didn't lose money, but it's like, if it's a push and this is the final product, is it worth it? I don't know. But that's kind of where we're at. And I'll just say, on the Wicked front, just kind of just chime in on that. $330 million domestically. It's had incredible legs. It's basically not dropping.
What's the budget on Wicked?
That's a great question. Well, it's a two-parter, so I don't know how it's reported.
Okay.
To be fair, they don't tell you that. They don't tell you it's a two-parter until you get in the movie and it says part one, and the first 10 minutes you're like, what? Where's the rest of this movie? This is an outrage. This movie's already 3 hours long. Wicked has a budget of $150 million, but my guess is probably more than that if you include both movies. Like, I assume that's not 150 for both movies.
It's probably.
I could be wrong. But I don't know if it's necessarily 150 plus 150 for, because in theory you could just have sets and stuff that you're using. I think it was shot at the same time.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah. So, it's kind of a one big long movie, really kind of Lord of the Rings style, split into different parts. But Moana 2 did really, really well too. It's over $300 million domestically as well, $600 million worldwide. Legs aren't as good as Wicked's have been, but still pretty good overall for, same thing. PG animated movie, obviously. Doing gangbusters, not a big surprise. But all three are kind of just given, strong legs for the box office. I think it's kind of the best, period for the box office in a while, just because you've got three big kind of movies that sort of cater to different audiences in a lot of ways. At the same time, taking up a lot of screens and just getting butts in seats. So I don't know what the exact figures are in terms of how well it's the box office is overall, but I feel like it's got to be close to record or, around record levels for this time of year, we should say. So good to see the box office back in full force. But let's now turn our attention talking about Gladiator II, seeing what old Ridley's up to. Ridley Scott. How old's this fucking guy?
Ridley Scott.
Let's find out. 87 years old. What's this 87-year-old fuck up to? He's making Gladiator 2. So, how do you do? He's old, but maybe he's still got it. Maybe he's still got the touch. What do you think?
87
How'd you feel
years old.
about Gladiator 2?
Was he really 87?
Retire, bitch.
God dang, dude.
I mean, I have to say, if you look at this movie as something that was directed by an 87-year-old, I walk away sort of impressed. I mean, he's got to have help, Right. He's got to have people, a lot of moving pieces. He's not doing everything himself, but he's clearly got a lot of vigor, and passion for someone, in his, mid to late 80s to be making a movie like this.
He's probably got more than old JoJo, that's for sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, hey, this dude is gonna make movies till the fucking day that he dies.
I think so,
and I kind of respect that. He's gonna die on a film set. I mean, it's just gonna happen, and everyone's gonna be like, well,
he's old as fuck. Okay,
this wasn't unexpected. He was 106. It's still going. Gladiator 4. But what do you think? What did you think about Gladiator 2?
So, okay, let me preface everything with my movie-going experience.
Yeah. We should address that up front. Your movie-going experience.
I didn't see
probably didn't help.
No, it did not elevate the film. So I go in to the theater, and I go and I order a pizza at the
and it should be said this is big chain. This is an AMC, right?
This is AMC. Yeah, I went to that Brandon AMC
primo experience. You probably drove close to an hour, 45 minutes, something like that.
Oh yeah, it's like a good 20-30 minutes from work, So
minutes, okay.
So I drive there after work, and Sarah's got the baby. She's got the baby at home. And this is the first movie night that I've had in kind of like in probably 2 or 3 weeks. And actually I canceled my AMC because I hadn't been going to the movie theaters. Like we haven't
to make it worth it.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So
I think the last theatrical movie that we covered was Alien Romulus. So you're going back a good ways.
Yeah. Right. So I canceled it. And of course, when I cancel it when Moana, Wicked, and this come out, I'm like, fuck, I kind of shot myself in the foot there.
Well, they screw you because you can't just re-sign up whenever.
No, they make you wait 6 months. For a period of time.
Yeah.
Anyways, so I cancel it, and I cancel it like 3 days before I go see this movie, and then I drive to the theater. I go order my pizza, and then I go over to the bar area and I get my 2 Blue Moons, and I am admittedly pretty excited. All my in-laws and pretty much all my in-laws went to Rome.
That's right. Yeah.
And then they cruised back from Rome. So I've seen pictures of everything there, and it looked absolutely incredible. I will go one day. Anyway, so I'm pretty pumped up about it. And I had been looking forward to it. I didn't know what direction they were going to take this movie in, but I'm there for it. So I go to the theater. I'm walking. I don't have my pizza yet, so I grab my beers and I'm waiting for the pizza to come back. And I pick my seat at the theater, and there's like 3 other people in there, right? So I walk my beers in. I go to walk my beers into the theater and then come back to get my pizza. And as I'm approaching the door, I hear, like, what the fuck is that? And I walk in to put my beers down, and there's a blown speaker, dude. A bad one. A very bad one. Like I said, I heard it from the door walking into the actual theater, into the auditorium, or whatever. So I walk back out, grab my pizza, and I come back in and I sit and I suffer through the fucking trailers. And I got like 10 minutes into the movie, and I say, I can't fucking stomach this. This is terrible. And I got out, and I've never in my life ever gone to like the box office manager guy, the manager sitting behind the thing, checking people in, and complain.
I was that man once upon a time. I know all about it.
I've never gone and complained about anything in a theater ever. And this was just like, and nobody got up to leave to talk to the guy. Nobody did anything.
Like, oh yeah, it sounds like shit on purpose. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, because it sounded like it was very bad. I actually recorded it to show the manager. Like, hey, listen, I'm not just saying this. Listen to this thing. And he puts, yeah, that's bad. Here's a voucher. And he really didn't even have to ask for a voucher. He just gave it to me. So he says he's going to talk to the projectionist. Either way, I don't want to go back to Theater 18. Never again. It's ruined that. It was awful. Anyways, so I suffered through that. To start on the actual movie itself.
So let me clarify. Did you watch the whole movie and then go say something after the fact?
No. Okay. I got up
then,
after the first sequence.
But then did you go back and finish the movie?
Yes. I definitely did. Yes.
Okay. I was thinking you hadn't switched to a different time or anything because there probably wasn't an option to do it unless you stayed at the theater till midnight.
No. I definitely just went back in there and fucking suffered through it.
Just angry the whole time.
Yeah, it was.
And then you watch the movie itself, and you're like, no, I'm even angry.
So I watched the movie itself, and what I can say about this movie is you remember the sequence in the first Gladiator when they're fighting and you got the big Hans Zimmer score going, and Joaquin Phoenix is like acting crazy and unhinged, and he's sticking out his tongue.
Yeah, of course. Who could forget?
That's this movie. This movie
just 2.5 hours of that.
2.5 hours of that. It's almost like you got Nick Cave to co-write this script, because it's just unhinged. It's an unhinged script. The premise. I didn't buy the premise of this movie. Like the I don't know how much is not spoilers and what is spoilers, so I gotta kind of just.
Well, I mean, what I'll say on that front in terms of like who the fuck the main character is for some reason treated as a surprise in the movie, even though that was like the first thing that was revealed in like the marketing lead up to the movie. So I've been cagey about it in terms of not revealing it for anyone that's just like kind of totally doesn't know anything about this movie. But let's just say it is a sequel to the first Gladiator movie in many ways. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's not a resurrected Maximus going through time shit, but it's definitely connected to the first movie.
Yeah. And in that part,
ways.
in that portion of it, okay. Right?
Sure.
They kind of gloss over it, whatever. It's fine, right? It's everything else that's completely unhinged that I don't buy. You know,
sure.
The action the action sequences were fine. I didn't think there was quite anything. There was nothing. It wasn't as. I felt like they had never touched on the levels of the first Gladiator. As far as those action sequences, they were just fine. You know what I mean? And the biggest thing is just the emperors of Rome.
Yeah. Ooh.
Just
2.5 hours of that.
Yeah, awful. It's fucking awful. It's awful. It's very bad. There's a senator in here that's awful.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Like the performance, you mean?
Yeah, it's like, hey, listen, like these are your emperors. I want you to act like you're a member of this government, right? What type of senator would act in this government? How would he act? You know, and just ham it up. I want you to ham it up.
Yeah.
Everybody, with the exception of everybody besides maybe your main character. Is cranked up to fucking 11. You know,
to me, it's a there's a division in the cast of people who are taking it extremely seriously, thinking this is a very heartfelt, legitimate sequel to the first movie, which is a pretty serious, grounded movie. You know, it's fictional, it's not completely historically accurate, blah blah blah, but it's pretty. It's pretty serious,
and you might if you unless you like dive in a textbook, you might not.
Well, you might not recognize the fact that this is just nonsense bullshit for in terms of what it's
right.
doing.
Like it's
but it's divided between the people who are like, this is
Gladiator II.
This is Gladiator II, and there's the people that think this movie is Gladiator II, and there's the people that understand that this movie is Gladiator. There's people that understand that. There's people that understood the assignment, and it's not to say that anyone is bad, regardless of whatever camp they ultimately fell in. But there's people that were like, I'm camping it up. Like I'm chewing scenery, baby.
I'm sticking my tongue out.
The time of my life. I am going full Jaquan with this shit. But specifically the
Jaquan alter ego.
Tongue sequence. They're doing that for the whole movie. And then there's the other people that are like, I'm channeling Russell Crowe, or the normal, everything that was relatively normal in Gladiator, aka the non Joaquin Phoenix characters.
Yeah.
We're all pretty fucking normal, So it makes for a mixed bag of kind of what you're getting of people that are just fucking going for it, and people that are not quite going for it in the same way. And I think, that's probably what happens when you let an 87-year-old man direct a movie, is he's probably not really directing anyone to be like, rein it in or go for it. Like more,
yeah.
So I think it's just kind of a symptom of that, of just Ridley kind of letting everyone kind of just do whatever the fuck they wanted. For better or for worse, I think overall, in terms of just kind of how disparate the performances come across. Because I think that
if you're a good guy, it's almost like a good guy, bad guy kind of thing.
Yeah, right.
Because if you're the bad guy, we want you to play a cartoon character.
Yes. Yes. You either are a cartoon character or you're a very serious normal man. Yeah.
And all the serious normal people are your quote unquote good guys, and all the people associated with Rome and like the power structure that exists are all cartoon characters.
Right. They didn't recognize that, like, Commodus wasn't a cartoon character for most of Gladiator. Like, there's moments where he is, he sucks. He wants to fuck his sister. He wants to, thumbs down people, and like he's crazy, man. Like, he's fucking nuts. Like, and whatever, he's a real shitbag. He's a dirtbag. Poisons Maximus for fights him and all that shit. But like,
he's
like,
villainous though. You know what I mean? Like,
he's villainous and he's horrible. But like, he's not like, I'm crazy, man. It's not like, but like he is. Like, obviously he's fucking crazy, but like there's like, general motives to the character, and like, he's got daddy issues, you know what I mean? Like it makes sense. There is characterization present
failure
and scripted
as a son.
Yeah.
My failure as a father.
Like, yeah, I mean, patricide's
good shit
bad,
though.
But it's characterization here. It's just there's no real characterization for the most part. I mean, I think maybe one villainous character has a shade of characterization, kind of baked into the plot. But the directive from minute one is just ham it up, and that's all you need to do, and people will delight in it, maybe. And I don't know. It just, it makes vast swaths of this film feel cartoonish, because you've just got cartoon characters running around, and it, and tonally you've got that up against, things that it doesn't really, characters that don't really mesh well with that sort of thing. So it's a very odd film in terms of its tone, I think. So maybe that's, I don't know if I'm putting words in your mouth, but that's certainly how I felt.
100%. I would 110% agree. Yes.
All right. So, and the senator, he was bad. But anyway, other thoughts for you? Other non-spoilery thoughts for you?
That's got to be the biggest one. I mean, I thought the action sequences were unremarkable. I didn't like. There's the naval scene that we talk about. It was pretty. That was cool for just because I didn't know that sort of thing happened, Mm-hmm. I thought that so I mean, I think that the action was unremarkable. We talk about baboons, we talk about it in the spoilers. There's some CG elements in this film that
not so great.
Not so great. Yeah, just like the art direction of the CG, I feel was just like from it, it's from a different movie. You know what I mean? Just felt strange. There was the amount of emotion and heartfeltness and all that good stuff that was in the first Gladiator is very notably absent in this movie. This feels there's a tremendous amount of heart in the first Gladiator. You know what I mean? I mean, Russell Crowe's crying and snotting on the foot of his dead wife and stuff, and I mean, it's just it's a heavy hitting movie, right? Like it's good. I like the first Gladiator a lot.
I mean, Maximus's fall from grace and obviously kind of redemption in the arena, and like, you know, his motivations, like it's so personal to him, and like, you know, having that, you know, when he's, you know, had the glory in the beginning and has it all kind of stripped away from, like, you sympathize with Maximus, you recognize his
characterization,
plight, and you root for him to fucking, you know, come out of it and, you know, kill the corrupt motherfuckers that you know, put him in that position.
What are we rooting for here in this movie?
And here it's like there's like shades of that, like they're kind of just doing the same basic beats, but like the Spark Notes versions of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's just like, yeah, but his wife, maybe something happens to his family, you know, and it's like, oh, well, I've never seen that one before, very original, you know, and like, oh, maybe he's got to be like a gladiator, maybe he's gonna like fight people, you know, in the arena, and you know, and
okay,
he'll have to get his revenge in the arena. It's like, oh, I haven't seen that one before either. Okay, you know, so it's kind of just doing the same things as the first one, but without the heart, without the characterization, without the reasons that made it work. And so it's kind of just this weird, hollow, pale imitation of the story of the first movie. And like, you know, we've seen lots of legacy sequels that are kind of just the same movie, but like a loose remake of it. Like, you know, you can call The Force Awakens kind of a loose remake of it.
Definitely.
And I think it's fair enough to say, but I do think that movie, to its credit, I think has a bit of heart, and, you know, and maybe it's using nostalgia and you know, to its advantage. This one tries to, but I think fails in its attempts to rely on nostalgia and its attempts to, you know, like, I think raise an interesting, you know, I like the core characters that we got in The Force Awakens. I liked them. People are going to disagree with that. Fine.
No, I think they were good. I like them too. Yeah,
but they felt a little bit different, set apart a little bit different. You know, not just carbon copies of the, you know, the core cast of the original trilogy of Star Wars. And here, it kind of just getting carbon copies, but like, you know, bootleg copies. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
Wish versions.
You got the Wish.com versions of Maximus, you know, and all these others, and it's just like, if you're not bringing anything to the table that sets you apart from the first movie, other than setting you apart in the sense of being worse versions of the same thing, what are you doing? Like, what's the point? You know what I mean? Maybe it's the same argument for like the live action adaptations of all these Disney movies, where it's just like, I mean, if you're going to make it, like, I guess either do like the perfect version of it where it's just as good as the original, or do something different to set it apart. Here, you're kind of just getting, I don't know, you know, I guess a modern budgeted version of Gladiator, but and like some of the stuff is very impressive, you know, the scope and scale of certain things, but then you've got wonky CG elements here and there, and you've got a story that's kind of just hollow and you know, been done before, and so
it's convoluted when it doesn't need to be. You know what I mean?
It definitely. And it's not just that it's just a carbon copy. It's that where it does try to diverge, it diverges in the dumbest fucking way possible of just being just unhinged, to use your word.
Convoluted. It's convoluted. Yeah.
It's convoluted, but unnecessarily so, and not in a satisfying way where it's just like, oh, I am really enjoying how this plot keeps plotting about, and, you know, it's twisty and turny. It's like, it's just fucking nonsense drivel for the most of it, where none of it really makes sense. And I alluded to as much, you know, they had the one cut character talked about in the fun fact. I think there's probably a 3 to 3.5 hour version of this movie that plot wise is less jumpy, but I don't think it's a better movie. I think it's just a longer movie. It's the Zack Snyder's Justice League version of this movie, where it's just like, it is better by the mere fact of it not being as incoherent, but it's not good. It doesn't suddenly make it good.
That's just it's more of the nonsense it's more nonsense that we were
it's nonsense
given.
to fill in the gaps of the nonsense, so that some of the nonsense is a little less nonsensical. Does that make sense? This is a Dr. Seuss sort of thing right there. But yeah, I mean, it's just, you know what? At the end of the day, it's just not very good. It's just not very good. And I never expected it to be amazing. I did expect it in many ways to just kind of be a Gladiator 2, where you're just kind of doing Gladiator again. Like, from the very inception, the idea that you're going to make this movie about someone who is going through basically the same arc of, I shouldn't be in the arena. I'm forced to be in the arena. I am there motivated by a specific purpose of revenge or whatever the case. It's like, that's not interesting. You already had that story told very, very well. So telling it again, even though it has, the only way that works is if you haven't seen Gladiator in 24 years. If you haven't watched the first Gladiator since it came out in 2000, this might work okay, because
though, I think if you haven't seen Gladiator in 24 years and you watch this movie, I think you question whether or not Gladiator, the first Gladiator, was a good movie.
yeah, you're like, oh, did I just like it because it was 24 years ago and we hadn't really seen it?
Yeah, that movie was probably a pile of shit. God, like...
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I think, I'm just making the point that, like, when you have seen the first Gladiator in any sort of, and
then this
recency,
pales in such comparison.
Then you can see them side by side, and obviously one is plainly inferior, but you also just see the copy and paste that's done, and I'll just change a little bit, and it's just not enough to really set it apart. And again, the places where it is kind of diverging, like, I mean, the naval battle is an example of, well, we didn't see that in the first one, and you know what? It's a pretty cool set piece. It's totally ridiculous. It's fucking nuts. It's absurd. It's unhinged. There's sharks. But like, it's not enough. That's not enough to center a movie. Like, it's a 1 5-minute set piece in a movie that is mostly just nonsense. And it doesn't. It never does enough like that to make it feel like it justifies its own existence.
Can you recall
this movie's existence is not justified?
Do you have any memorable set pieces aside from baboon and sharks
in this movie? I mean, there's the guy in the rhino. It was kind of fun.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that guy.
Rhino guy. I mean, not really. And there's only so much you can do in the Coliseum. And I think that's kind of one of my things is, like, if you wanted to make Gladiator 2, I think you have to kind of just make it like a sequel that is tackling, like, the political aspects of Rome. And this one does that, but I just think having the main character go through the whole same beats of being forced to be a gladiator isn't interesting. Like, I think Gladiator 2 should not be called Gladiator 2. I think Gladiator 2 should be, just something Rome, and it's a continuation of the Gladiator story that's following these characters, picking up from it, fictionalizing it in some ways. Like, if you want to have these connections to Gladiator as a movie, I think that's fine. If you want to have a sequence in the arena in which you do, the naval battle and it's a big set piece, that's fine, but I just think structuring it in a way that is so similar, so similar but worse.
Yeah,
it just does nothing for me on any sort of personal level of just really getting anything out of it. And I think that's where the movie kind of failed in the first place. Is just the script doesn't have enough, and then you've got the Ridley-isms added on top of that makes something that probably is on its surface level not anything special, certainly nothing groundbreaking or new, but hey, maybe with like a competent hand, it could be as good as a lot of those legacy sequels that are just kind of just doing the same thing but with a modern coat of paint. But it's not happening here because you've got too much going on. And I think that it's probably a hair or a good chunk dumber than again, like a Force Awakens in terms of its plotting or anything kind of along those lines. But there's still a way that this could have been kind of the riff on the first movie and still been relatively successful, even if unoriginal. It did not hit that mark either. I think, it's kind of
because it's written. It's like it was written by, like, I don't know, somebody on mushrooms or something.
Just written by a monkey.
Written by a monkey. Written by Doofus or whatever his name is.
Doofus. Yeah, might have been written by Doofus.
The fuck. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah. Yeah.
Did anybody else read this shit? David, did you have anybody proofread your shit aside from Ridley? Ridley can't read. He's 87 years old. He's not reading anything anymore.
He Georged it. It's a George Lucas. It's good enough. First draft, we'll take it. First draft of just opening up Gladiator, .pdf and being like, what if I put an extra I in the middle of Gladiator, yo? Like,
well, David writes a fucking novel is what it is. He writes this big chunk of a script, right? And then brings it over to Ridley. Can't operate a computer, okay? So he brings it over to Ridley. Say, hey, Ridley, take your time and read this over and let me know what you think. And Ridley nods off at some point because it's fucking 3 hours. He nods off and then he comes back to work the next day. It's fine. Let's do it. Because clearly, I don't know. I don't know in what world this fucking gets approved the way it is.
Yeah. Or who says, yes, let's spend $300-ish million.
$300 million on that fucking... yes. Wow.
Like, like you said, Pedro, Denzel, they're not coming cheap, of course. Paul probably commands a decent salary at this point in his career. He's gotten some recognition for other, non-blockbustery sorts of things for sure. But, I don't know. Kind of baffling at the end of the day once you see the final product, being like, oh, that's what they came up with. Okay. All right. I have to say I was not thrilled with this overall. I did not have any blown speakers in my theater. The audience, some murmuring here and there, but pretty good viewing experience.
Can you blame them?
I was late to the party. I saw it last night, actually. And I feel like I've already forgotten half the movie, which is probably kind of the type of movie that it is. It's very unmemorable in many ways, and I think it's memorable in the wrong sorts of ways. With just the absurd shit. So we'll get into that obviously in spoilers. But I think that if I just had to kind of boil it all down, I think it's just a pale imitation of the first movie. This movie doesn't justify its own existence. It has no reason to exist. It doesn't do enough within its own script, within its own plot to give you a reason to care about any of these characters, it kind of strips away some of the magic of the original almost retroactively, if anything.
Yeah.
And I think that I think most people will be better off
not watching.
Just pretending this doesn't exist. Just pretending it doesn't, like it's bullshit fan fiction, and that's fine. Just put it in a vacuum. Treat the first Gladiator movie in a vacuum, and I think legitimately you will be better for it, because it's not the worst movie I've ever seen. I mean, it was entertaining, and how ridiculous it was at parts, and I enjoyed some of the cartoon characters at times, but as a movie itself, I think it's kind of dog shit, to be honest. Like and I will say, I mean, hey, I had this thought before we started recording. When we agreed to watch this movie, you watched it first, obviously, and I think you didn't really give me, I feel like your experience was focused on the blown speaker, so I didn't really get a good sense that you had felt a certain way about this movie. So when I walked in, I didn't really have a good sense of the fact that
what you were walking into.
You didn't care for this movie. You didn't give me any sort of warnings, which is fine. I kind of appreciated, because I feel like this is the first time in a long time where I've walked into a movie, being like, all right, I'm not expecting much, but it'll be fun, entertaining, if nothing else. And then walking out being like, oh man, that kind of fucking sucked. Like I haven't had that in a while. Like Beetlejuice like had a weird ending, and like it was fine. That was another kind of sort of pale imitation of the first one, but better than this one. Twisters was like a decent riff on the original,
it was actually, that was fun. That was a good movie.
Furiosa was a good addition to the Mad Max lore. Kingdom of Planet of the Apes was, more Planet of the Apes, but a little bit different. Ghostbusters, was like probably the last movie that was like, it was fine, but it wasn't bad. And so I'm like pouring back through like movies that we would have seen in theaters, and at least the movies that we've covered.
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell you the last movie that I saw where I just walked out thinking that was kind of shit, man.
Boy, this is my one. This is the movie night that I've had after having seen a movie in 2 months.
I think it's because it's a symptom of us being more choosy with like what we like. We can usually screen things like trailers like that's going to be a piece of shit. We're not going to watch Venom: The Last Dance because we know it's going to be a dog shit piece of shit. We didn't watch Morbius. We didn't watch Madam Web. We're not going to watch Kraven the Hunter because of course it's going to be fucking dog shit. Why the fuck would it be anything else? But with something like this, again, I wasn't expecting anything amazing.
But there's a chance it's a decent movie.
I was expecting pretty entertaining, maybe a rehash of the first one because it's a Gladiator movie still. But I thought it would give me something, and it just didn't. So I'm scrolling. Black Adam, maybe Black Adam's the last But you walk into Black Adam thinking this is probably going to be kind of shit. So
right.
Oh, here it is. I found the one. The last really, I think maybe good example of a movie that I walked in, expecting it to probably be bad, but not understanding how bad it would be. Halloween Ends.
Oh.
Halloween Ends was the last one I think that I watched where I'm just like, holy fucking shit, I am flabbergasted by how bad it is. And I will say, Gladiator II is absolutely better and more entertaining than Halloween Ends. It weirdly enough, when I watched Gladiator 2 and like I was kind of like rolling with it for the most movie, like because it's kind of dumb. It's just kind of the same thing but worse. But by the time it actually ended, and it kind of just ended, I thought like the way that it literally ended, I was just like, oh, that's it. Okay, the lights are coming on. I guess it's over. That's when it kind of hit me. I had that sinking realization. I was just like, oh, I just wasted my time. Oh. I was like,
this is what that feels like.
Oh, that was a waste of time. I just wasted 2.5 hours of my life.
Oh.
And the only redemption is that I get to talk about it with Andrew and hope that he feels the same way so we can commiserate together.
The only time my mouth wasn't open is when I was chewing or drinking a beer. The rest of the time, my jaw was... I just kind of felt like an ape watching the movie, Yeah. It was not good. That's my official review. Not good. Put it on a box. Put it on the box art. Not good.
Retire, bitch. That's
yeah. It's time for you to fucking go home. Just go home, dude.
Hang
Relax.
it up, Ridley. He's done.
You've done enough.
He's done enough. And I feel like he's done stuff that's been pretty good recently. He's done stuff that's been pretty bad recently too. House of Gucci. But The Last Duel was good. Napoleon looked kind of shit. Probably was kind of shit. Didn't actually watch.
Somebody had a real bad wig in that one, didn't they?
Well, The Last Duel had the horrible Matt Damon hair. Like the mullet thing, whatever the hell is going on, and then it had blonde Ben Affleck.
I never watched it.
Little goatee. It's pretty good. I think to its credit, it's actually pretty good.
Okay.
But almost in spite of the hair choices that it's historically accurate. Like, when the fuck have you ever cared about that, Ridley? This movie,
clearly not. Right.
This movie, they just took some names and we're just like we're just making shit up. We're just making shit up, and it's fine. It's like naval battles. Yeah, but what if sharks though? So, okay, whatever. Anyway, I guess we might as well just roll into recommendation. Do you have any other non-spoiler thoughts?
No.
Kind of just
that's it.
Steamroll through it. All right, so our recommendation. I put the wrong recommendation scheme on this because I kept the TV one by accident. So let's see if my memory will work today. I think we have 3 tiers. We have go watch this in theaters.
Yep.
Wait to watch it at home, be it streaming or buying the 4K, Blu-ray, whatever, and then waiting until someone pays you to watch it. So, I think we're probably not going to recommend people see it in theaters. It's probably where we're at.
Yeah. No.
Maybe you'll
Hard
feel
no.
differently.
Hard no.
So is it going to be for you a watch it at home? You know, if you're curious and want to know, or is it bad enough perhaps to warrant the someone has to pay you to watch it?
So there's a couple.
You even watch it in the first place.
I would say, it is my opinion that this is a pay to watch movie.
That bad.
First one of the year.
I think it's the first one we busted out in a long
I think
time.
so.
Probably since Halloween
and
ends.
and maybe I'm jaded because of my theater experience, but I don't think so. I think that because this movie's so long, right?
Sure,
it's a big
investment. It does not respect your life.
No, it doesn't respect your time or your life, or the sacrifices you have to make in order to be invested in a 3-hour movie. It doesn't respect any of that. It's too long it's too long, and there's not enough of the, like, for example, if you wanted to make a breezy Gladiator movie and just lean into the action sequences and just make a action-packed Gladiator movie and lean into what it is to be a gladiator, right? You could make yourself an hour-and-a-half movie, and it could be breezy and set with a historical deal in the arena, and then you could have something that's watch at home. This is a 3-hour epic, and
you'll feel every minute of it.
And you feel every minute of it. You do. It's So I say no. If I were to watch this again, it's gonna AMC paid me to watch it effectively. They gave me my.
That's true. You did get your re-ad, so even if it wasn't, your headcanon is not going to be because of the blown speaker. It's because of the quality of the movie. They had to apologize for.
Right, exactly.
They're like, we're sorry that we subjected you to this movie. We didn't know either, in our defense, but we feel bad enough that we have to, compensate you for your lost time.
Yeah. And ultimately, that's what it is. Like you said, I just wasted my time, and that's what this is. And I think it actively detracts from the first movie. I think everything you said there was valid with that. You know what I mean? I think I think you do yourself a disservice by watching it, which is that's a terrible thing to say about a movie. That you've tainted the waters. You know what I mean? So, like you say, it's better
for sure.
Pretending it does not exist, which is a pretty fucking rough thing to say. So if you're better off pretending it doesn't exist, then it's definitely pay me to watch it.
Yeah, I mean, here's what I'll say. I think for me personally, having seen this movie, knowing what this movie is, I do think you would have to pay me to watch it again. That's how I feel about it. And I think that's probably kind of where it sits in terms of the lack of respect this movie has for like an audience and just people that obviously the first Gladiator is not my favorite movie of all time. I'm like the first time I watched it in many years was when we covered it for our bonus episode. So it's a good movie. I've seen it less than 5 times in my entire life. So I'm not so outraged,
and it doesn't hold up
the existence.
It doesn't hold
movie.
up the best either.
No, yeah, this got some weird slow-mo shit here and there, and it's not a perfect movie. It definitely has some dated aspects to it, but it's pretty good overall. And generally holds up. So I don't feel such a an attachment to the original that this is so insulting that it's ruined my childhood or that it's ruined my life, or at the end of the day, all it is it's wasted 2.5 hours of my life. It's given me an hour of having a pretty good time of bagging on it with my best friend. So it's not a total loss, obviously.
Right.
But I think in terms of just how I look at it, I think you'd have to pay me to watch it again. I just there's not enough in here. It's got some pretty cool sets. It's got some decent set pieces. It's got some neat enough stuff in it in terms of the action, but nothing that wouldn't make me just think I would just spend that time watching the first Gladiator. If I'm forced to do anything along these lines, I will just watch the first movie again, and I will pretend this one doesn't exist, as we kind of said. But I think in terms of people that aren't me, people that don't have any sort of attachment to the first movie, I think in terms of just the pure quality of the filmmaking overall, not really the script itself, discounting the nonsense script, like, I think there's entertainment value to be found in this, but I would never recommend anyone spend money on it beyond any money they've already sunk in it. So if you see it on a hotel TV, it's probably fine. You know, it's ridiculous. It's kind of shit, you know, but like you could probably find some entertainment. If it comes to, you know, Paramount Plus or whatever in 6 months and you're mildly curious, like, prepare yourself. It's probably going to be bad. You might regret it yourself too. You know, it's the same principle that led us to watch The Flash, you know, on streaming. We all knew it was going to be bad. We just had to know. We just had to know for ourselves. Like, is it that bad? That's pretty bad. You know? Yeah. So I think it's kind of that same sort of token. Like, if you're curious and, you know, or if you're a big Pedro stan or you're a Denzel stan, I mean, I'll tell you, Pedro is wasted in this. I think overall, if you're, you know, I think Paul Mescal is super sexy or whatever. Like, he's shirtless, you know, he's you know, in pretty good shape, a little better shape than me, you know, like, all right, you know, you can find some value there. But Denzel, if you're a Denzel fan, I think Denzel, I thought he was very fun and entertaining in this. This is my personal thoughts on it. I think he to me was a cartoon character, yes, but I think he was a cartoon character who understood the assignment and just, I thought, was just so preposterous and ridiculous and so like chewing the scene in a way that like the emperors were like the whole movie. Denzel was doing that, but in a more Denzel-y sort of way. I mean, he's just fucking playing Denzel again. You know, that's all he does. But he's like, I'm just playing Denzel in a fucking Gladiator movie. Like, I'm in ancient Rome. It's like, okay, yeah. You know, like that's kind of what he's doing, and I enjoyed him just crushing it. So if you're a Denzel stan and you want to see some ridiculous over the top chewing the fuck out of scenery and like spitting it out and then chewing it some more, Denzel, this is a movie for you.
He is present, yes.
But don't pay for that. You know, Paramount Plus. If you're already paying for Paramount Plus for some reason, you know, then yeah, you know, that's fine. So that's kind of where I'm at, is don't expect anything good out of this movie. You have been warned. If you want to go in and find out if it's your shit, there's good action in it, and you know, whatever. Like, there's things in it to pick out, you know, and enjoy in a vacuum. And if you liked this movie and had a blast with it, and you know, you don't care that it's just dumb bullshit, that's totally fine too. Obviously, you know, I'm not going to pull the Paul Rudd, Kiwi Kwan, you know, stance on you of, if you like this movie, you're a fucking moron and you should go fuck yourself. Like, it's whatever, man. Like, for me though, having seen it in the theater, spending the time on it, like, I still have A-list, so it's not, you know, it was sunken cost for me. I think maybe that helps with my overall philosophy of like, hey, if you want to sink your sunken cost too, be my guest, but operate at your own peril, you know, like that. I don't know.
Now,
I guess
I'll also
I'm hemming and hawing
that
in terms of my recommendation, but my overall thing is
I was stapled to the original Gladiator a little bit more than you two, though.
That's probably true, and then maybe that's certainly maybe where we're coming at, where you're probably a little harsher than I am in terms of like I've already it's been less than 24 hours. Oh no, over 24 hours now since I've seen this movie. By the 48-hour period, I'm going to remember some CGI baboons. I'm going to remember...
I forgot about the rhino.
I'm going to remember Denzel. If there's anything I remember from this movie, it's going to be Denzel having a goddamn blast. That's probably what I'm going to remember, to be honest, is Denzel just absolutely just going to town. Just going to town. So anyway, that's kind of where we stand. I don't know if that's helpful or anything. You know, hey, you do you. Why don't we do some spoilers now, some full spoilers for Gladiator. or Gladiator 2 or Gladiator, because if you say it
and they got those things on them.
It's like Gladia 2 and then just an R.
True.
Gladia 2R. Gladiator. Gladiator. It's really cool. I don't know why they didn't do it, but I mean, they don't really care about respect for Roman history, so they could have just done the actual number 2 instead of the Roman numerals. And
would have followed suit with the movie.
It's kind of would have made sense. Yeah, would have been on brand. Spoiler wise, Lucius is the main character. For some reason, that is hidden in the movie itself as some sort of plot reveal, even though, again, it was marketed that way. So I don't really know. I think it's kind of a dumb story structure thing to like play that as some sort of surprise when it's not.
And that's fine. You want to revisit Lucius? You want to make Lucius the center of your story?
Sure.
Could you not just make him like, hey, we found out that Lucius is alive, and we found him and we fucking captured him and threw him in the arena? Is that not enough?
Well, we could do some other stuff. We could add more to that
story.
Well,
yeah, you can make it super, like they did. You can make convoluted and shit, but it's just enough to go fucking get the guy that's supposed to be the heir to the empire and then just fucking throw him in the Colosseum. You know what I mean? That's enough.
Yeah.
You know? I thought Lucius was okay, you know?
He was fine. I feel like it's a weird, I think Paul Mescal, like physically did good with the role. I felt like every time they tried to give him the heroic speech, he wasn't.
It always felt flat.
It felt very flat. Like I was never like. I don't think any of his fellow gladiators would have been roused by any of his speeches because his whole character is kind of flat the whole movie. He's just kind of like going through the motions of life, and like obviously he, is getting revenge, but it just kind of feels like he's just there. Just kind of moving from scene to scene. And I just never really felt a strong connection. And even like the little bullshit, prologue they did where he's on Numidia and has his wife, like that shit's over in like 2 seconds. And it's like, I guess it's it's an attempt, but I think, well, there's a couple things I guess I have to say. Let me ask you this. Let me just ask you, what was the point in the movie in which you realized what the movie was? Like we were just like, oh, this is going to be a piece of shit. Was there a point in the movie where you kind of had that realization?
Because
I mean, when you saw it, what you saw?
Yeah, I think for me,
so it's almost out of your memory banks entirely. So you really got to dig.
Yeah,
deep
So at the beginning of the movie, the very beginning, the where the wife dies, I said, okay, this movie's going to be cheap. It's going to be a cheap. I see what they're doing now. You know what I mean? So it's cheap.
Sure. Got to set up stakes, motivations. Let's kill the female characters. The family member, wife. It's kind of the same story as Gladiator, and it's a very, very
I'm here for it.
Thing to do.
I knew what I was like. Yeah. But
no surprises.
But when he fought the shadow monster in the fucking Colosseum, and he defeated Shadow Monster by taking a chunk out of him, right, biting him,
bit a chunk out of him.
I said,
and then choked with the chains.
This is what we're in for right here. This is it.
Yep.
And I think this is like around that point we were introduced to the two emperors, and we're like, and then oof.
The gods have spoken.
Yeah. So okay, this is gonna be how long is this movie? And
you start looking at your watch, and if you're not wearing a watch, you're looking at your fake watch on your
so that's about the time, right around there. So first 20 minutes,
right,
maybe.
Fair enough. That's a good point. I actually had 2 points that happened earlier. The very first one was the retelling of the events of the first Gladiator
through
movie
sketch,
with the watercolor painting. Shit.
To include Jaquan Phoenix tongue face. I don't know if you saw that or not.
To include, I definitely saw that. How could I miss it? I thought it looked like shit.
Yeah, I did.
I thought it's not. I checked after the fact, and I feel like I would have heard something. It felt very AI to me in terms of what it was.
Oh, yeah.
And just how fucked all the faces looked. I think it's just I think it's the guy that does like the Scott-free production logo, like the Raven or whatever it is, Crow or whatever those fucking birds are. Like kind of, I don't know if it was literally painted over frames of the movie, and that's kind of why it looked as fucked, or if it's just doing it with people versus animals looks fucked. But I thought it looked like shit, and I'm like, yeah, I don't really need this. Like, it's trying to be artistic, but I thought it looked like ass. And again, kind of almost AI coded. It's not. I'm not saying it is. To be clear, it's not.
Just looked like it.
But it looked like it. So I was worried then, but where I really knew it was going to be ass was when his wife died. She gets, the arrow through the heart. She falls into the water. He gets knocked into the water. And then we cut to the vision of her being taken across the river, by the two, boatsmen or whatever. And I'm just like, this is going to be shit. just the moment of like that whole thing of like, oh God, are we going to do this whole thing, throughout the movie? And not as much as you'd expect, although it kind of goes to it at the end with the Maximus hand or whatever. I'm like, oh, fuck you. It's that it happens. Like, it's like, all right, it's symbolic. He's recognizing that his wife has been killed. She's died. She's,
crossing over
to the other side or whatever. And then it immediately just goes back to them both in the water. And then he just swims around and finds her. And they kind of have the same like moment of just being like, oh shit, she's dead. And, cradling her. And it's just like, well, why do we have the symbolic version of that if you're literally just going to do the same fucking thing in the next scene? And like, that's like an editing sort of thing where it's just like, yeah, I just saw this scene like in a different form. Like, are you either going to be literal or are you going to do this sort of metaphysical sort of thing, And it's like, don't do it both ways. It's weird. Do one or the other. And so like, especially like right next to each other, like if you wanted to have the vision of him seeing his wife later in the movie, maybe that you could make that work, but those are the two moments where I was just like, yeah, I don't think anyone put that much thought into this movie. I think they're just like, this is gonna be cool, man.
I missed the second sequence. Then I missed that
Gladiator. Oh yeah, you were probably dealing with your speaker shenanigans.
Yeah, so. I missed that second sequence.
Yeah, well, you didn't miss much. Let's put it that way. Yeah.
The cuck, what's his face? He reminds me a little bit of, that guy reminds me of the senator. He reminds me a little bit of the guy from The Boys, the assistant to the redhead who rips her hair out.
Okay.
Just, I don't know. Just
a fucking goober.
The goober, yeah.
Just a fucking goober.
He's
like, what do we need a goober in here for?
He's a big goober. He's terrible.
Goobery goober, like, I don't know.
He's terrible.
There's too many goobers in this movie. You've got this guy who's a fucking goober. You've got Denzel, who's not really a goober, but he's obviously super over the top. And then you've got two goober emperors, and they're like peak goober. That goober's not even the right word. The senator is a goober. He's textbook definition of the word goober. If you look it up, you'll see this fucking guy. Or actually, I should say, look up the definition of the word goober in the dictionary. You know what you'll find? A picture of the senator. No, the definition of the word goober, which he fucking is.
Yeah, goober. Definitely a goober. You got the senators. The cartoon characters is what they are, especially the one with the monkey.
So I mean, like, it's kind of weird that they're just like, yeah, this guy's intellectually disabled. I'm like, okay, like, I mean, or like that's a weird take on it. Cognitive erosion in his brain. Okay.
Is that what they said in the movie? I can't remember.
Apparently, I don't. That's what Wikipedia says. It's like, I was like, this is it's a weird way to play it. But okay. He's just bad. Also, this is a mean thing to say, maybe, that man's proportions are comical. And I don't know if it's just the clothes they put him in to make him look even more comical than he might. Like, he might be a normal looking man in general. I actually don't know for a fact. but the way that he was portrayed, and obviously the makeup and everything, you know, they do the makeup and the eyeshadow and all that. They look as fucking ridiculous as possible, and the goofy ass wigs, like it's just cartoon character shit, and it's not like fun cartoon character. It's just so.
It's bad.
Just makes you groan. Just you know, and I like.
You spent 3 hours with that guy,
and like Joseph Quinn's fine. I think he's like the more sane of the two, but it just every time those two were on scene together, it was just like, oh god, here we go, you know, and it's just it's just cringy to watch. Just you know, like you're not supposed to like those characters. Obviously, like they're crazy, man, you know, and like all that jazz, but like. Joaquin Phoenix was interesting to watch. He was fucking hateable, you know, a horrible character who you wanted to die the whole movie, and I definitely wanted these two fucking guys to die. But like there was a sort of magnetism, at least, to Joaquin's performance of like why he was such a hateable villain. These two are just fucking clowns. They're just, I mean, just
they're clowns. That's exactly what they are.
There we go. We've got Goober. We've got two clowns. There's just two fucking clowns in this movie. So I've still got to find a good word for Denzel in terms of kind of how to best, you know, summarize his character. But these two clowns were just ridiculous. I mean, I did enjoy the monkey being the consul. I think maybe if for the people in Rome that haven't been informed of the events of the third act of this movie, maybe the monkey is in charge for a brief time as emperor. That would be good. I hope that happens. But yeah, those two clowns, I don't know. I mean, I liked Denzel's scheming. I liked, you know, he's kind of schmoozing and doing the whole Denzel thing. I thought that was kind of fun. I think kind of the way that the movie built to this weird bullshit third act.
Oh, you mean where he is an escaped gladiator that becomes the emperor of Rome?
Yeah, I mean, like, it's ridiculous. Like, fine, whatever. He's got motivation. You know, it's Marcus Aurelius that did it. Okay, all right, whatever. You know, everyone's connected. Lucius is connected to the, you know, and it's all connected, and like, fine, whatever. It's all part of the plan. I don't care. Like, but just like the actual like mechanisms for how they arrive at this, like the gates of Rome thing, where like he's just riding out on horseback, and then Lucius is just riding through the entire Roman army, like on this road. No one stops him. No one stops him on this road. He's just riding through the streets of Rome, you know, out to the gates of Rome. No one stops him thinking, well, if this guy, you know, like, this guy's the second consul or anything like that, and this guy's an escaped gladiator, maybe I should do something about this. Just nonsense. There's just like a bunch of nonsense shit like that, where it's like Lucilla, his mom, is like a prisoner, but then like the night before she's going to be executed, she like goes to visit him in his cell. And she has free reign to do anything. She can just go there, apparently. Why doesn't she just let him out at that point? Because clearly no one's watching her. And it's just like, none of this really makes any sense. There's no real logic. Like, you wanted those two to share a scene together, and you didn't really actually think about like how the plot would make any sense to arrive at that point. And maybe there was 20 minutes that were cut in the middle of the like being like, oh yeah, no, she's allowed out on temporary, you know, leave before she's executed as a moment of mercy, or she's got a friend, you know, or someone's helping her, you know, move silently through the night because she's still popular or whatever. And it's like, I don't know. They just cut all the connective tissue and just left it with just kind of nonsense shit happening for no real reason, without any sort of discernible thing. And just like the most ridiculous shit, like the passage of time doesn't exist in this, where it's just like, hey man, can you take this ring? Can you take Pedro Pascal's ring and write it across the fucking empire, deliver it to this guy and be like, hey, it's from me. Don't worry about it. It's from it. Tell him Lucius sent you, and he will march and he will get there in 5 minutes. You know,
yeah.
It's just, I mean, you know, this is not a movie that is clearly designed to be dissected in a sense of
don't understand it. Don't think about it.
Don't think about it. Don't worry about it. Just. It's big battle sequences. They're going to do a big slicey. He's going to cut Denzel's arm and run him through, and he's going to die in the river. And it's like totally cool, man. Like, that's all you need is just how cool this is. Don't think about anything. Don't ask questions. Fuck you. Don't worry about it. Like, that's kind of the movie's philosophy. And I think to echo my recommendation, is like, if you can get on board with that, I think you could have fun with this movie. I think you have to know what it is, expect that, embrace it, and embrace it tightly. And I think maybe you can have enjoyment, find enjoyment in this movie. But it didn't have to be this way.
What's the last Fast and the Furious? The one where homie played a cartoon character? Is it Fast 9?
Momoa. No, I think it was Fast X.
Fast X?
Yeah, this is Fast X, but Gladiator. This is ancient Rome Fast and Furious shit. Is really what it. I think that's a good comparison. I don't know if that's like that's the comparison you're making, and I agree with it.
Yeah, that's kind of the comparison.
You walk into a Fast and Furious movie expecting dumb bullshit, and you get dumb bullshit. Let me tell you, but it's fun for the most part. I mean, some of it's a little too over. Like Momoa's, a little ridiculous, and maybe too ridiculous at times.
But you got 10 movies to kind of really.
Yeah, you've calibrated your expectations.
Yeah,
if you number one choose to watch that movie in some capacity, see it in a fucking theater, and you don't know what to expect, that's on you.
You watch Fast and Furious. You watch Fast Furious 1, and then watch Fast X,
and then you jump to Fast X. Oh yeah, that's great. That's a perfect comparison.
That would be breakneck. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, it might feel like you missed something, So we missed the Gladiator, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, kind of leading
like the transition of Rome from a pretty serious empire to ruled by two brothers and a monkey. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
and one Goober leading Senate.
Yeah, there's a lot. You're right. And it's also like, I don't know, like, it's also kind of just pissing on the legacy of the first movie and like in a very sort of immediate, and in the same way, again, I keep inviting the comparison, in the same way that in Star Wars The Force Awakens, the Empire is back under a different name. And it's like,
okay.
Well, that's kind of shitty. What happened? You know what I mean?
Thought we did this already, didn't we?
It's not really explained that clearly, other than like some people were clearly still unhappy and decided to, form their own, new empire. But, they're not like a full-fledged power, in the beginning of The Force Awakens. They kind of come more into power by the end of the movie. Here, Maximus dies with, Marcus Aurelius' dream and mind of a better Rome, and, the horrible emperor has been slain. Maybe, the future is good and great. And then 15 years later, you've got these two fuckheads in charge, and all the people hate them, or are very discontent. There's all these fucking people who are clearly impoverished, who don't have food accessible and are just begging to stay alive. And so, it looks like a real shithole, in terms of just kind of the class disparity, right? And so, but like, I don't know, man, what happened? People just like immediately rejected that. Like, it's glossed over. Obviously it's a time jump and whatever. And the whole point is obviously Lucius trying to, reconcile like the people of Rome being like, no, it doesn't have to fucking suck like it did. Like remember what happened 15 years ago when we thought maybe we might try to do better? Let's do that again, except I'll fucking stay alive this time. I'll make it happen, bitches. Like that's kind of it. And like, that's kind of like fine in a vacuum, but I don't know. It does just kind of feel like we've just decided to ignore that the first movie ended in this particular way. And there's the whole aspect in terms of, if we're talking about pissing on the legacy, the fact that he's Maximus's kid, a little questionable.
Does that tarnish Maximus's?
Well, so what I think happened, what I think old Ridley did is he retconned the age of Lucius in this movie, because Lucius is the same age as Maximus's son, I think, roughly in the first movie, which is to say that, had they been fathered around the same time, then there's probably some infidelity happening and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I think they retconned it so that Lucius is older, so that, it's from a prior relationship in theory that Maximus had with Lucilla before he, had this son with his wife and stuff like that, because we don't want to tarnish Maximus's character. But then it's like, if your first thing that you're doing is retconning ages of characters from the first movie, perhaps you have taken this in the wrong direction.
Right.
Or you just need to embrace the fact that, it's ancient Rome. What happens in ancient Rome stays in ancient Rome. You know what I mean? Like Maximus, he might love his wife and kid, but he Dave Grohls it sometimes too, Yeah. So it's no big deal. He's just Dave Grohling about having kids, with other women. Nope, it happens. It happens, I don't know. It didn't. Everything has to be connected, to he's Lucius, but he's Maximus's son, and he's really Maximus's son because he's going to wear his armor and be so cool when he does it. It's like, it's just doing too much, man. Just doing too much.
Unnecessary.
Unnecessarily. Yeah. All right, anything else for you? Gladiator 2, ready to put it to bed and never think about it again, hopefully ever?
Yes.
All right, very good. We shall leave it there until Gladiator 3 comes out. Probably not, though. $350 million budget. We'll see.
Too much.
We know Ridley will probably want to do it, but someone needs to tell the man no. Sometimes, anyway. All right. It's been a few weeks, however long it's been since we talked to Agatha. Thanksgiving has come and gone. All those other days have come and gone. You been up to anything exciting during that time you want to talk about?
Yeah, we went to Blue Ridge for a week. That was pretty
places, cool. Right? Yeah. You did Thanksgiving up there, I assume?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we went to Blue Ridge and we went to Highlands, North Carolina, to visit Sarah's family.
Okay.
And that was cool. I got sick on Thanksgiving, which sucked. I didn't get to eat any Thanksgiving food. I was in bed all day. That
proper
was not
sick.
Pleasant.
I see.
Yep.
Brutal.
So that's a bummer. That's my favorite holiday, and I didn't get to really experience it, so that sucks. But there's always next year. Mm-hmm. And I went to the movie theaters and watched this movie.
Haven't been to the movie theater for anything else, I would presume.
No. We want to go see Moana, and we want to go see Wicked. That's why I didn't watch either of those movies by myself, because Sarah wants to watch them.
Fair.
And aside from that, though, that was really, I can't think of anything else. I think that's pretty much about it. Oh, Georgia won the SEC. That was, there was a couple of ridiculous football games that Georgia was a part of.
Yeah, we're recording pre-playoffs beginning, but
I think we're in store for some good football coming up.
Georgia's got a pretty. I don't want to say easy because nothing's easy, but a favorable path to some of the later games. So we'll see how it goes. Although they will be doing it without Carson Beck, so I think.
What happened to his arm? I didn't see his arm. What happened?
I think UCL tear or something. Maybe I think he's being shut down for the season. However, I would argue.
Good. I'm not going to say good. I say I'm not a fan of Carson Beck.
It might not be a net negative for the team in general. I think that they can still go far without him. Is I think my personal stance on it.
I agree.
It's a really fun year for football because I think there's a lot of parity in the sense that I don't think there's any one team that's amazing. Georgia's very good. There's a lot of teams that are very good. But I was real
impressed by Arizona. Arizona looked really good.
Arizona State, kicked ass in their championship. Like I think that and the first year of the 12-team playoffs will be really interesting to see how it plays out. To see how your Arizona States, your Boise States, and kind of these other teams that you
conventionally
wouldn't have traditionally made a playoffs. I'll be curious to see how they kind of perform. You have a Clemson who shouldn't be in the playoff, but won their championship game and now they're in and, pushed Alabama out. Oh, well. It'll be curious to see if they just get destroyed in the first game they play.
Hey.
Or if they make some noise. So I'm really excited to see how it all plays out.
We got good football coming up, which is cool.
So definitely good football. We've had some good football, but we'll definitely be enjoying some good college football in the near future too. So lots of football. I've been watching lots of football myself. So.
And I can't really think of anything else I've really been up to. So I'll just stick a
TV shows. Any TV shows?
Oh yeah. So I've started Skeleton Crew.
Okay, right.
I'm up to date on Skeleton Crew.
Is that what 2-3 episodes?
3 episodes, and I'm 4 or 5 episodes in Dune Prophecy.
Oh, okay. How are you like? You seem like you were liking Skeleton Crew from what you said earlier. So.
Yeah, Skeleton Crew's fun. It's a fun Star Wars experience. It's
kind of Star Wars Goonies is kind of
exactly
like what it was
exactly
marketed as.
And you can tell there's good direction behind it.
Yeah, it's a really great group of directors for the whole season.
Yeah, and you can it shows.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, it's on my list. I definitely want to check it out. I don't know if I'll get to it imminently. Probably.
Kids, Droid, very cool. Jude Law's very cool.
Max Rebo kid.
Yeah, I like little Max Rebo kid. He's awesome.
Yeah. And then Dune Prophecy. How's that? Because it's only 6, so it sounds like you're probably pretty close to the end. I don't know if it's like wrapped up, but I think it's only 6 episodes for the season. I feel like I've heard mixed things on it, so I'm curious where you
I mean, it's space Game of Thrones, but not seasons. I wouldn't say it's seasons 1 through 4 of Game of Thrones.
All right, but is it better than,
It's better than the last season of Game of Thrones.
Shit. Okay. Middling Game of Thrones, whatever seasons that would be. 6, 5, 7 maybe.
Somewhere in that ballpark, yeah.
Yeah.
It's, I don't know. We're gonna see how the season wraps up, but I fear that they are diluting Dune.
Just let Denny do Messiah and then maybe leave it alone. Is that?
Yeah, because
the books. There's 30 books out there.
I think this guy was in that real shit show that I watched on HBO. The one that I watched during COVID.
The Raised by Wolves guy. Yeah. Travis Fimmel or whatever. Yeah, it's the same
I'm not
guy.
a fucking fan of this guy. I'm not a fan at all.
I don't think I've seen him in anything because I think he was in Vikings. I think probably pre-Raised by Wolves, and I kind of just get the impression that he seems to just be playing the same character and everything. But I don't.
Yeah,
know
and
if
it's
true.
almost like this is. I never watched season 2 of Raised by Wolves, but it's almost like this is set in the same universe of Raised by Wolves.
Yeah, well, that's not a good thing. So
it's not a good thing at all. And
you don't like to be reminded of that show's existence.
No, I don't like this guy at all. I don't know if I've said that. I don't fucking like him. So
stop acting. Shouldn't be anything ever, bitch. Go find a new career.
Yeah. So that's Dune Prophecy. We'll see where it goes. Hopefully, it good.
That's really inspiring. So I'll definitely add it to the short list on my end.
I haven't been pleased with it so far. I mean, all
right. Yeah. If I'm gun to the head, Rings of Power or Dune Prophecy first, where do I go?
Rings of Power.
Okay. All right. That's what I figured.
No hesitation.
Have you watched any of the Penguin yet?
No, not yet. No.
All right. That's
I did finish. I did finish Rings of Power. Did I tell you that?
I think you talked about it last episode.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, I finished that. I'm watching these 2 shows, and I went to start. Amazon's got this show. It's called. I think we talked about it briefly in the news section one time. It's like Secret Level or Secret Layer or something like that. It's like an animated
like the video
deal.
game ones.
Yeah, it looks like Love.
Each episode's kind of like a different video game property or something.
Yeah, like the first one's Dungeons and Dragons, and I started it. But I had to go to bed, so I went to bed. I didn't get to finish it, but it looks real pretty. It looks almost like that.
So you liked what little you saw, but you've seen very little, maybe.
Exactly right. Okay. But I will explore that.
I'm gonna figure out what that's called
a little further. I think it's Secret Level. I think
Secret Level. Yeah, I think Secret Level. Yeah.
Yeah. It's got to be the same studio that did Love and Robots. Love, Death, and Robots, I think. Death, Love, and Robots.
Right. Yeah, I don't know if it is. But it definitely...
It's pretty looking.
Right. It is. Yeah, it is.
Okay. Yeah, cool.
Yep.
Anyways, so I'm a big fan of that show. I like that show a lot. So knowing that it's the same studio, cool. that kind of makes me a little excited. I'll dig in.
Yeah, just the... like, it's kind of interesting to just... kind of dip in and out of these kind of video game worlds and stuff. It's just kind of
short and breezy
neat concept. Yeah.
So that's cool. Right. Magic. I've got a lot of Magic cards. I've got everything just about added to the collection, so that's cool. But nice. That's it. That's all I got.
All right. Oh, that just dropped December 10th, so like it just came out. Okay. Secret Level I'm talking about. All right. Right on. Well, I'm going to go over to my things I've been up to.
What have you been up to, dude?
Celebrated Thanksgiving up in New York with Anna's family. It was very nice, as it always is. We got snow. It was a white Thanksgiving, which was fun. Obi enjoyed it quite a bit. They actually just came and visited us this past weekend. We went to a Flyers game. Flyers lost, but it happens. So we're going up there to watch a Union college hockey game this weekend. So it's a very hockey dominant few weeks for me, which is good. I'm a convert at this point, so enjoying that. In addition, obviously, the college football and all that. Been playing plenty of college football 25 still.
Okay.
I've been playing it on a new toy. I bought a new toy for myself. Black Friday, I got a PlayStation Portal, which has come in handy because I was able to bring it to New York and I can stream video games on my PS5.
Oh.
As long as I'm connected to Wi-Fi and the Wi-Fi is working at home.
And how's that play?
It works pretty well. I thought about it in the sense that the PS5 lives on the third floor in the den, like the TV room kind of sort of space. And to really play stuff up there, I've kind of got to isolate myself from the main floor of the house where, the living room and kitchen and stuff are. And I thought it might be handy just to have it as a thing to play stuff while I'm downstairs. And that way I'm not separating myself from Anna or Obi, and I can just kind of just play something. And so that was kind of why I got it.
Mm-hmm.
And also because I think that there's a chance that electronics start to get more expensive in the future. So it felt like a good time to do things. Electronics not principally not made in America, shall we say? That's kind of why I got it. But then they also right before I bought it, they added the feature to do cloud streaming. Native cloud streaming for it. So basically there's a whole catalog as long as you have the highest tier of PlayStation Plus where you can just directly cloud stream PS5 games and other games. So there's a good selection. You can do the Demon Souls, you can do the new Ratchet and Clank and Spider-Man Miles Morales. It's a pretty robust collection, and then kind of more indie stuff too, or some PS1 classics and stuff you can do, and it just does the cloud streaming where it's not streaming from your console, it's streaming from Sony's servers or whatever.
Okay.
And that works actually really, really well, and it's only in beta right now, but
does that actually work really better than localized streaming?
I think it does actually. I think it's more consistent. I think with the local streaming it's kind of subject to the the Wi-Fi kind of getting a little wonky here and there, and the actual screen quality kind of degrades a little bit, when a stream drops from 1080p to 720 or an occasional things get real shit and it's 240p or whatever. It very rarely does that, but I've never seen that with the cloud streaming part of it. You're more limited in that you have the pool of games, you have to have the subscription, but it's very cool. It's a cool feature, and I hope that they continue to add, because you can't do PS3 streaming games on there for whatever reason. It's only PS5 games or games that are natively compatible for PS5. But it's a pretty neat little toy. I'm enjoying it a lot.
Bluetooth headphones?
It's compatible with Bluetooth headphones. So I think it has a headphone jack as well.
Okay.
So I don't know if you can use AirPods with it. I don't know if you have to use the native Sony ones or how that works.
Can you switch it? Almost use it like a switch? Does it have an HDMI out to connect to a TV if you're say?
It doesn't. No.
Strictly handheld.
Strictly handheld, and obviously just strictly if you're using it in conjunction with your PS5, it's just what's on your PS5 screen. And so there's certain things where I thought I'll just be able to watch Disney Plus on this, but for whatever reason there's copyright protections for where you can't stream.
You can't access the apps
on it'll say you're not allowed to look at this screen, close this screen, and it'll kick you back to where you were before. So you can't really use it as a handheld
media streamer
TV media streamer or anything like that. I don't really know what the legal reason is for that. Obviously there is one.
Probably have a workaround or some shit.
But yeah, I mean, I think as a college football 25 handheld device, it's working pretty well for me.
What about something like your what the fuck's that really awesome game? I was playing it before. One where the roguelike where you're in hell.
Like Hades.
Yeah. You try anything like that? Try anything Twitch based?
I've played Rocket League on it, like online.
Okay.
And it's
as a stream from the PlayStation servers, or as a stream from your PlayStation?
Stream from my console, yeah.
And it worked pretty good.
Yeah, no, I thought it, it probably about the same level of latency and everything as you would just playing it natively on the Switch. Like Rocket League on the Switch. So
okay.
No, I mean it works pretty well. It's reliant on your Wi-Fi.
You have a good router too, though. You got a good mesh network.
Right, and like there are parts of the house where if I'm not like right next to a router, or there's definitely parts where if your Wi-Fi connection is spottier, it's not going to look as good. Like it literally will change the image quality of your stream.
And it's a good deal less expensive than a Steam Deck, right?
Definitely less expensive than I think any incarnation of the Steam Deck. It's $200. It's
Steam Deck pushing $5 probably.
I think you can probably get a lower, like a non-OLED model for $300-400 ish maybe these days. I think the OLEDs sit in the $500-600 range if I'm not mistaken.
And those games play natively on the Steam Deck.
Yeah, so I mean the Steam Deck is definitely stronger hardware. It has a lot more, like under the hood relative to that, and I think
this looks like it's more comfortable though. I mean,
your Steam library is obviously going to be quite a bit more expansive, in terms of like what's available to you than what this one offers. But I this is a little bit more in the budget and
sure.
Certain things about it. Like I do a lot with the PlayStation, so I feel like it's like a good kind of companion device for me. It's not a PS5 replacement or anything like that. But like you could, in theory, if you just wanted to do cloud streaming, like you could play stuff without owning a PS5 entirely, and have like and have a lot of games accessible to you with the subscription. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I mean, I'd recommend it. I think it's a neat device. It's pretty well constructed. The screen's nice. It's not a 4K screen, but it's pretty nice. Yeah, it's not for everyone. Like, I think you're really going to need to have some sort of utility for it. But I think, for me,
I added it to my list. My Christmas list.
It's nice that I don't have to. It's nice that I could play PS5 games, number one, in New York when I'm not home. Never could do that before. And it's also nice to just like be able to play a game of college football in the living room while we're watching something dumb on TV. Like stuff like that is just kind of nice. Like I don't have to go separate myself and go play something.
It looks like
that.
A premium fit and filled thing too, though. It looks nice.
Yeah, no, it's a good build quality, I think. So, and it feels like the DualShock or the DualSense controller. It's just basically literally a DualSense split in half with the screen in the middle. So, it has the same sort of comfort level to it. So, if you like what the PS5 controller feels like, you'll like how this feels because it's just the same. I think the analog sticks are maybe slightly smaller or something, but that's about it. So.
Okay. Well, I added on your recommendation. I added it to my.
It's pretty cool. I'm definitely getting a lot of usage out of it. That's kind of my non-media, or non-movie TV stuff. But on the movie and TV front, I have seen Wicked. I have seen Wicked Part 1, as it's titled in the film. It's longer than Gladiator, but it doesn't feel longer than Gladiator. I have to say, I was very skeptical of Wicked. We've talked about it obviously as trailers, and I think the trailers made it look like shit. And I came away liking it. I came away enjoying Wicked. I like the musical. I think the musical is great. So I think that there was always a way to make it work as a movie. I thought the casting of the leads was uninspired at best, bad at worst. And I thought that the film itself just looked visually very ugly from the trailers. Everything looked so digital, glossy, and just ugh. The latter complaint is present in parts of the movie. It does have the digital, glossy look for chunks of it, but not all of it. There's a lot more practicality to the sets, which I think the marketing kind of disguised for whatever reason. And I have to eat crow on the leads. I thought Ariana Grande particularly was really good, and Cynthia Erivo was pretty good too. And I don't really like either of them on a personal level still, but I will give them credit for, I think, doing very well in these roles that they were cast in Wicked. It's doing really well. It's very popular. People are liking it. The music's good. I have complaints about it. I I don't think it's perfect. I don't think it's amazing, but I think the fact that I enjoyed it as much as I did relative to my fears and low expectations, I came away very pleasantly surprised. So I actually think it would be a solid theatrical watch. It's a full-on fucking musical. Go in expecting a musical. It's 2 hours and 40 minutes. So I think it actually is paced very well considering that. But, be ready for that. And I'd be curious to hear what you think. I think that if you watch it, whether you make it into a theater with Sarah and watch it, or you guys watch it when it comes to streaming some point next year, I think that if you have any sort of enjoyment level in it, we can probably come back and talk about part 1.
Okay.
When part 2 comes out, because part 2 is coming out like Thanksgiving of next year. So it's a part 1, part 2 deal. And then, we could kind of do full coverage of it when the whole 4-5 hour thing is all said and done. So, call me. I was pleasantly surprised.
Hey, it's nice to be surprised.
It's nice to be surprised. Sometimes you get disappointed. Sometimes you get surprised, right? So in terms of other things, everything else is a little bit more standard fare types of things that we watch around this time of year. We watched Moulin Rouge on Thanksgiving, which is a tradition for us at this point. It's still good. I find myself liking it more every time I watch it. Just appreciating the different kind of crazy Baz Luhrmann aspects of it and how bonkers it is in many respects, but genuinely heartfelt, and the jukebox musical stuff is very good. Anna and I are seeing the stage adaptation. We're gonna head up to New York City and watch the Moulin Rouge Broadway musical in a week's time. So I'm excited to see that because I know they changed some of the songs, and so obviously some of the staging is different just by virtue of it being a stage show versus the movie. But yeah, so we'll talk about that probably next time we record. I don't know if we'll record before we've seen it. I doubt it. We watched Miracle in hockey season, and it likes to treat it as like the kickoff to Christmas movie season because it's got a good Christmas scene in it, and it's a great movie about the U.S. men's Olympic hockey team, going against them damn Soviets. It's really good. Kurt Russell's fantastic in it. He's awesome. He's amazing. And it's just a like really well done version of that of the story that it, the real life story that it's telling. So would recommend it. It's on Disney Plus. Actually, everything that we watched in terms of other movies is all on Disney Plus. Anna's parents went to Hawaii pretty recently. We dog sat, while they were gone, and then when they came back, obviously, they're much like you were when you went to Puerto Rico. You became a man of the island. They became people of the island. So we had the idea to just put on like island related things. So Anna just put Lilo and Stitch on.
There you go. Okay, because
it's set in Hawaii. We're getting a live action version of it next year. We'll probably talk about it when we talk about other movies because I think we've only had like little tiny teasers and stuff.
Tidbits.
Great movie. Great movie. Really, I'm curious about the live action version, how they do it all, but it's fantastic. And then we watched the Moana. We watched the first Moana. We have not seen the second Moana yet, but rewatched the first one, which I think is great. Gets me emotional. I loved it when it came out in 2016, and yeah, I think it holds up. So, that's it on the movie front. On the TV side of things, we finished American Horror Story Coven because we didn't finish it I think until November, so we obviously went past spooky season to finish it. But it was pretty good overall. I think I probably in the early days was not super high on it. I think it's a little clunky in the beginning, but I think it kind of found its footing halfway through. And I think unlike the second season of Horror Story, I think it stuck the landing in a pretty good way. So I think it was a pretty worthwhile entry into the American Horror Story canon. Yeah, pretty good. Great performances. As with all the American Horror Story that I've seen, super unhinged, super over the top, super campy in many ways, and gross and just kind of just genre bending, doing a lot. Sometimes too much, but generally enjoyable. And I think this one did a lot up front, kind of figured it out, and or maybe I just started to reconcile it better, and I had a good time with it overall. So, good season of Horror Story. And then finally, we are 2 episodes away from finishing the first season of Lost, which is Anna's favorite TV show. I am really, really enjoying it. I've never watched Lost. There's obviously a lot of discussion on the internet about Lost. People have thoughts on the ending. People have thoughts on, just the show in general. And it was a big discussion kind of show, obviously, at the time that it was airing. And I was very much on the sidelines for all of that, having never watched any of it. She's seen it multiple times. And it's just really fantastic. I mean, the structure of it between flashbacks and kind of obviously what's happening as these people are lost on the island and it makes you care about, the people on there, and it's got weird shit happening that kind of, leaves you intrigued and doesn't answer all the questions. And we'll see how many questions it answers, if any, by the end of the first season. But the mystery is enough and is very intriguing. And it's just really, really well done. This first season, at least, I can't speak to anything beyond it. And I can't speak to how the first season itself ends, but I'm expecting pretty good. I mean, so it's on Netflix. That's how I'm watching it. For anyone that is curious and is like me and never watched it back in the day.
Yeah, I've never seen it before,
but it's good. It's like it's the classic sort of thing that we don't get these days, where the first season is 25 episodes and they're all 45 minutes each. Like, you don't really see that other than like Law and Order and stuff these days. And it's pretty, it's serialized, and in the sense that, it's all the continuing story of people surviving, trying to figure out what the hell's happening and trying to get rescued and all that. But, each episode generally kind of has its own little, mini plots and stuff, as, TV shows tend to do. So,
yeah.
And again, like kind of giving each character, like, this is a Jack focused episode, this is a Kate episode, it's kind of got stuff like that. So, but it's very good. It's very, very good in its early days anyway. So I think that's it for me. I think that's all I can think of right now. That's all I had on my list. So going to keep plugging away at those. I'd like to start Skeleton Crew, get into Penguin. I want to start rewatching Daredevil in anticipation of Born Again. But I gotta live life. I gotta pay the bills. Got to do other things too. So it's not time for everything, but try to find time for it. So yeah, I think that's it for me. I think that's it for this episode. Thank you all for listening. If you enjoyed what you heard, spread the word. We're on Patreon at patreon.com/watchreviewrepeat. You can get early access to all of our regular episodes there. I don't know. Maybe we'll do a bonus episode sometime next year. Maybe.
Yeah.
We'll do something at some point, perhaps.
Absolutely.
But our website's watchreviewrepeat.com. You can find links to all our episodes there, links to all our socials. We are on Facebook, facebook.com/watchreviewrepeat. We're on Instagram at watchreviewrepeat. We'll probably jump over to Blue Sky at some point, but I keep saying that, but I haven't actually made the account yet, so it'll happen at some point. I'm done with Twitter. It's a cesspool at this point, and it's just, I don't think it's really worth staying on there, but we are on there. You can search for it. It's on the website still. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, if you've got something to say, send it our way to watchreviewrepeat@gmail.com. Love to hear if you have very different thoughts on Gladiator II, thoughts on Wicked, thoughts on Moana 2. Obviously, these big movies. You have some thoughts. Let us know. Kraven the Hunter is coming out real soon. It'll be out by the time this is up for everyone. So you got big thoughts on Kraven the Hunter? Let us know. Early buzz seems very, very positive. Very positive.
If it's a golf score.
yeah, pretty much. So, hey, let us know. Let us know what you've been up to. Our intro and outro tracks, Mechanolith by Kevin MacLeod and Compotech.com, licensed under the Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0 license. What are we doing for our next episode? Well, we know that at the end of December, we are getting Nosferatu. And so I think that we know that we are going to see that in theaters. I think we know we are going to cover that. I think the question is, do we cover anything prior to that? And I think the answer to that is to be determined.
TBD. Yeah.
We could do a Moana. We could do a Wicked Part 1 if you happen to make it to the theaters for either of those. The War of the Rohirrim is coming out if you
very
want
soon
to watch that instead of Kraven the Hunter, or if you just wanted to do Kraven the Hunter, just want to go back to back on badness, we could do that. But I don't want to make any bold promises that we can't keep. We're definitely going to do Nosferatu, but that may not be until post-Christmas. So we might have one more on us prior to that. We just don't know what yet. So TBD, we'll figure it out. We'll be back at some point, hopefully relatively soon, but who's to say? So I will say, just in case we don't record again until after Christmas, hope everyone has a nice Christmas.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays to all. And if I say it again on the next episode, no big deal. So either way, Andrew, why don't you take everyone out?
Take care now. Bye-bye then.
Later's on the Menchie.